In the quiet stillness of a very early morning, long before the sun has fully risen, the land of ancient Egypt rests in a soft gray light. The air is cool for a short while, carrying a faint scent of damp earth and river water. There is no rush, no noise of crowds, no sudden movement, only the slow and steady breathing of a land that has followed the same rhythm for thousands of years. To the west, the desert stretches out in pale silence, its sands smooth and undisturbed. To the east, low hills sit quietly under the fading night sky, and between them, like a calm and patient thread, flows the gentle water of the Nile River. The river moves without hurry. It has always moved this way. It does not rush toward anything. It does not resist. It simply continues, carrying with it the life of the land, as it has done for generations beyond counting. Along its banks, small villages rest close to the water. The homes are simple, built from sun-dried mud bricks. Their walls are soft in color, blending gently with the earth around them. Flat roofs stretch quietly under the sky, still cool from the night air. Inside one of these homes, a family sleeps. The room is dim, with only the faintest hint of light beginning to enter through a small opening. The floor is packed earth, smooth from many years of use. Woven mats lie close together where the family rests side by side. There is no furniture, as one might expect in later times, no heavy beds or tall shelves, only what is needed, nothing more. A soft stirring begins. One person shifts slightly, then becomes still again. Another breathes deeply, turning toward the faint light. The quiet is not broken suddenly. It changes slowly, like the soft fading of night into morning. Outside, the first sounds of the day begin to appear. A bird calls once, then again from somewhere near the riverbank. The sound is clear but gentle. It does not disturb the silence. It becomes part of it. A faint breeze moves across the land, brushing lightly against the walls of the houses, stirring a few grains of sand along the ground. And then, slowly, the sky begins to change. A pale glow forms along the horizon. The sun has not yet risen, but its presence can be felt. The darkness softens, turning into shades of gray and light blue. In the distance, the surface of the Nile reflects this early light, creating a quiet shimmer that moves with the current. Inside the home, the first member of the family wakes. It is not a sudden awakening. There is no alarm, no sharp call, only a gradual return to awareness, guided by the rhythm of the natural world. The person sits up slowly. For a moment, they remain still, allowing the body to adjust. The air is cool against the skin. The ground beneath them feels firm and familiar. There is no sense of urgency. The day will begin, as it always does, in its own time. One by one, the others begin to wake as well. A child rubs their eyes gently, still half lost in sleep. Another shifts closer to the warmth of a nearby body before finally sitting up. There are no words at first, only small movements, quiet breaths, and the soft sounds of waking. Soon, someone rises to their feet. They step carefully across the floor, moving toward the entrance. The door is simple, made of wood and fiber. It opens with a soft, worn sound. Outside, the light has grown slightly stronger. The sky now holds a gentle gold near the horizon, while the higher parts remain pale and calm. The air carries a freshness that will not last long once the sun climbs higher. The person steps out into the open space before the house. The ground is cool beneath their feet. They pause for a moment, looking out toward the river. This simple act, this quiet pause at the beginning of the day, is something repeated again and again across the land. It does not need to be spoken about. It is simply part of life. Nearby, other homes begin to stir. Another door opens, then another. People step out slowly, greeting the morning in silence or with the softest of words. There is no loud conversation. Voices remain low, respectful of the calm that still lingers in the air. A woman moves toward a clay jar placed just outside her home. She lifts it carefully, balancing its weight with practiced ease. The jar is smooth, shaped by hand, and marked with small imperfections that tell of its making. Water will be needed for the day. She begins to walk toward the Nile. Her steps are steady and unhurried. The path is familiar, worn gently into the ground by many feet over many years. Others move along it as well, each carrying their own jars, their own quiet thoughts. As they approach the river, the sound of water becomes clearer. It is not loud, it does not crash or roar. It moves with a soft, continuous whisper, brushing against the banks, touching reeds and stones with a steady, calming rhythm. The woman kneels at the edge. She lowers the jar slowly into the water, allowing it to fill. The surface ripples gently, then settles again. For a moment, she watches the river. The light of the rising sun now begins to touch the water, creating a warm glow that spreads slowly across its surface. This river is everything. It brings water to drink, it feeds the crops, it shapes the land, it decides the rhythm of the seasons. And so, each morning, people return to it, not with excitement, not with ceremony, but with quiet understanding. The jar is lifted, now heavier with water. She rises and begins the walk back home. Behind her, others do the same. The path fills slowly, not with noise, but with presence. Back in the village, small fires begin to appear. Thin lines of smoke rise gently into the morning air. The smell of burning wood mixes with the scent of earth and water. Food will be prepared, simple food, grain that has been ground into flour, bread formed by hand, perhaps a small portion of vegetables or fruit depending on the season. Inside the home, a flat stone is used for grinding. The motion is slow and steady, back and forth, back and forth. There is a rhythm to it, a quiet, repetitive movement that requires patience but not strain. A child watches for a moment, then looks away, their attention drifting toward the doorway where light now enters more fully. Outside, the sun finally rises above the horizon. It does not jump into the sky. It lifts slowly, almost gently, as if it too is waking. The light grows warmer. Shadows begin to form, stretching long across the ground. The coolness of the early morning begins to fade. Soon the heat will come, but for now there is still a softness in the air. Men begin to gather tools, simple tools made from wood and stone. Some are worn smooth from years of use. Each one has a purpose understood without explanation. They move toward the fields. The land near the Nile is dark and rich, shaped by the yearly flooding of the river. This soil holds life within it. Walking through the fields, their feet press gently into the ground. There is a quiet awareness here, the understanding that the land gives, but also asks for care. Work begins slowly. There is no rush to start all at once. Hands move to the soil,
Seeds are placed carefully. Movements are repeated again and again, steady and patient. The sun climbs higher. Light spreads across the fields, touching every surface with a warm glow. Back in the village, the sounds of daily life continue to grow, but never become overwhelming. Children move through open spaces, their steps light, their voices soft. They do not run wildly. Their energy flows in small bursts, then settles again. An older person sits near a wall, shaping a piece of clay. Their hands move with quiet skill, turning, pressing, smoothing. The shape begins to form slowly, without force. A pot, perhaps, or a bowl. Something simple, something useful. There is no need
for decoration beyond what is natural. The beauty comes from the shape, from the balance, from the care taken in its making. Nearby, another person weaves fibers together. The strands cross over and under, forming patterns that are both simple and strong. Baskets take shape in this way, one line at a time. The work is steady. It does not demand attention in a harsh way. It allows the mind to rest, even while the hands continue. Time passes quietly. The sun continues its slow path upward. Shadows shorten, the warmth increases, but still the rhythm remains unchanged. In this land, life follows the movement of the river and the sun. Nothing is hurried, nothing is wasted. Each action connects gently to the next. And as the morning deepens into the day, the village continues its quiet, steady flow, unchanging, patient, and calm, as if it has always been this way. And perhaps, in many ways, it has. As the morning settles more fully across the land of ancient Egypt, the gentle coolness of dawn slowly gives way to a quiet, growing warmth. The light from the rising sun becomes softer and broader, spreading evenly across the fields, the homes, and the winding path that leads once again to the steady waters of the Nile River. Nothing changes quickly. The shift from morning to midday is almost unnoticeable, like a slow breath that deepens over time. In the fields, the men continue their work. Their movements remain steady, guided not by urgency, but by habit. Each step presses lightly into the dark soil, still holding some moisture from the river's past flooding. The earth feels soft, almost cool beneath the surface, even as the air above begins to warm. A wooden tool moves through the soil. It is simple in shape, worn smooth where hands have held it again and again. It does not shine. It does not stand out. It simply does its work, quietly and reliably. The sound it makes is soft, a light scraping, a gentle turning of earth. This sound repeats over and over, blending into the calm atmosphere of the morning. Nearby, a pair of oxen move slowly, guided by a steady hand. Their pace is even, unhurried, their strength used carefully. Each step they take is deliberate, pressing into the soil with quiet purpose. There is no need to rush them. They understand this rhythm, just as the people do. Above, the sky stretches wide and pale blue, with no clouds to interrupt its stillness. The sun continues its slow climb, and with it, the warmth begins to settle more firmly over the land. In the village, life continues in a similar quiet pattern. Inside one of the mud brick homes, the morning meal has been prepared. Flatbread rests on a simple surface, its texture slightly rough, its smell warm and comforting. A small portion is broken off and shared. There is no abundance, but there is enough. Eating is not rushed. Each bite is taken slowly, without distraction. The flavors are simple: grain, perhaps a bit of salt, maybe a touch of oil if it is available. These are not foods meant to excite the senses. They are meant to sustain, to provide quiet energy for the day ahead. A child sits close, watching carefully. They learn not through instruction, but through observation. The way the bread is held, the way it is broken, the way each piece is used fully and nothing is wasted. Outside, the light grows stronger. The shadows that once stretched long across the ground now begin to pull inward, shortening as the sun rises higher. A woman steps into the open space between the homes. In her hands, she carries a bundle of fibers. She sits down on a low surface, perhaps a flat stone or a simple woven mat, and begins to work. Her fingers move with quiet precision, over and under, pull and tighten. The fibers begin to take shape, slowly forming into something useful, a basket perhaps, or a mat that will later be used inside the home. The motion is repetitive, gentle. There is no strain in it. It allows the mind to drift slightly, to rest while still remaining present. Nearby, another person tends to a small fire. The flames are low, controlled, just enough to provide heat for cooking or for shaping clay. The smoke of it is soft, familiar. It does not overwhelm. It becomes part of the air itself. Further along the village path, an older man sits quietly in the shade of a wall. The wall is warm now, holding the early heat of the sun. He leans slightly against it, his posture relaxed, his breathing slow and steady. In his hands, he holds a small object, a tool perhaps, or a piece of wood that he shapes gently with careful movements. Each motion is deliberate. There is no wasted effort. Time does not press on him. It simply passes, like the river. Children move in and out of the spaces between the homes. Their steps are light, their voices soft, never rising too high. They carry small objects, imitate the movements of the adults, or simply walk along the familiar paths, feeling the ground beneath their feet. They are part of the rhythm, not separate from it. As the sun reaches higher, the warmth becomes more noticeable. The air loses its early freshness. It grows still. Even the breeze, which once moved gently through the village, becomes quieter, as if resting. In the fields, the work begins to slow, not because it is finished, but because the heat asks for a pause. The men straighten their backs, taking a moment to rest. They look out across the land. The fields stretch calmly towards the river, their lines soft and natural, shaped not by force, but by careful, repeated effort over many seasons. In the distance, the surface of the Nile continues to move, unchanged. It reflects the bright light of the sun now, shimmering gently, almost blending into the sky itself. Some of the workers begin to move towards the shade, perhaps a simple shelter made from reeds or the shadow cast by a low structure near the edge of the field. They sit down slowly, no collapse, no exhaustion, only a quiet transition from movement to stillness. A small amount of food is brought out, again simple, again shared. Water is passed between them. Each person drinks slowly, carefully, aware of its value. The coolness of the water offers a small relief from the growing heat. Back in the village, similar pauses begin to appear. Work does not stop completely, but it softens. Movements become slower. Voices become even quieter. Some people sit in the shade, allowing their bodies to rest. Others continue their tasks, but at a gentler pace. Inside the homes, the air remains cooler than outside. The thick mud brick walls hold back some of the heat, creating a space that feels calm and still. A woman sits just inside the doorway, where a small amount of light enters. She holds a piece of cloth, working with it slowly, perhaps repairing it, perhaps shaping it into something new. Her movements are small, precise, unhurried.
The cloth shifts softly between her fingers. Outside, the brightness of the day reaches its peak. The sun stands high in the sky now, casting short, direct shadows beneath every object. The ground feels warm, the air feels heavy, but still there is no sense of discomfort that disrupts the rhythm of life. This is expected, this is known, this is part of the day, just as the cool morning and the soft evening will be. Time continues to move, not quickly, not slowly, simply steadily. And in that steady movement, life continues in quiet balance. In the distance, a small boat moves along the Nile. Its shape is simple, made from wood, guided by a single person. The water carries it gently, requiring little effort. The boat glides without sound. It becomes just another part of the landscape, moving as naturally as the river itself. Back in the village, the stillness of midday begins to settle more deeply. Some people close their eyes for a short rest. Others remain awake, but still, their thoughts drifting quietly. Even the animals seem to pause. A goat stands in the shade, barely moving. A bird rests on a low branch, its wings tucked close. Everything softens, everything slows. And in this moment, the land of ancient Egypt feels almost suspended in time, held gently between the rising heat of the day and the promise of its gradual cooling. Nothing is forced, nothing is hurried, everything simply continues. And as the sun begins, almost imperceptibly, to move past its highest point, a subtle change begins to form once more. A quiet shift, a gentle turning, the beginning of the afternoon.
The afternoon begins so quietly that it is almost impossible to notice the exact moment when it arrives. There is no clear line between midday and what comes after. The change happens slowly, like the soft turning of a page that no one is watching. Above the land of ancient Egypt, the sun has passed its highest point. Its light is still strong, still warm, but something within it has shifted. The brightness softens just a little. The shadows, which had rested close beneath every object, begin to stretch outward again, slowly returning to the ground in longer shapes. The air, though still warm, feels less heavy. A faint breeze returns. It moves gently across the fields, brushing against the surface of the soil, touching the leaves of plants, and slipping quietly through the spaces between the homes. In the fields, the men begin to rise from their resting places. There is no signal, no spoken instruction. Each person simply feels the time within themselves. They stand slowly, brushing the dust from their hands, adjusting their simple garments, and turning once more toward the work that waits patiently. The tools are lifted again, their surfaces warm now from the sun. Hands settle around them with quiet familiarity. The work resumes. It does not begin suddenly. It continues, as if it had never truly stopped. The soil is turned once more, the movement steady and even. There is a quiet understanding in every action, a knowledge that has been passed from one generation to the next, not through words, but through repetition. Nearby, the oxen begin to move again. Their pace remains slow, their strength steady. They do not resist. They follow the gentle guidance of the hands that lead them, stepping carefully across the land that feeds both them and the people. The sound of their movement is soft, a slow rhythm of hooves pressing into earth, a quiet exhale of breath, nothing more. Above them, the sky remains clear. Its color deepens slightly,
shifting from pale blue to a richer tone as the afternoon continues. The sun moves on its steady path, never rushing, never pausing. Back in the village, life begins to stir once more from the stillness of midday. Those who had rested now open their eyes. They sit up slowly, allowing their bodies to return gently to movement. There is no sudden awakening, only a gradual return. A woman steps out from the shade of her home, blinking softly in the light. The air feels different now, still warm, but easier to breathe. She takes a quiet moment, standing still, looking out across the village. The familiar shapes of the homes, the paths, the distant line of the Nile River, all remain unchanged. There is comfort in this sameness, a calm that comes from knowing that everything is as it should be. She begins to move again, returning to her work. The woven fibers she had been shaping earlier rest where she left them. She picks them up once more, her fingers finding their place without hesitation. The pattern continues, over and under, pull and tighten. The basket grows slowly, each movement adding to its form. Nearby, the small fires are tended again. A piece of wood is adjusted. A flame is encouraged gently, not forced. The heat rises in soft waves, blending into the warmth of the afternoon. The smell of it drifts through the air, light and familiar. Children begin to move more freely now. The stillness of midday has passed, and their quiet energy returns in small, gentle bursts. They walk along the paths, their feet brushing the dust. They carry small objects, pieces of wood, stones, or bits of fiber, mimicking the work they see around them. Their voices remain soft. Even in play, there is a calmness, a sense that they are part of something steady and unchanging. An older woman sits near the entrance of her home. In her hands, she holds a piece of grain. She examines it carefully, then places it aside. Another follows. Her movements are slow and deliberate. This is not hurried work. It is patient, careful, requiring attention but not strain. The grain will be used later, ground into flour, made into bread. Simple, essential, and quietly important. Further along the village, a man works with clay. The piece he began earlier has taken on a clearer shape now. It rests on a flat surface, its sides smooth, its form balanced. He turns it slowly, examining it from all sides. His fingers move across its surface, smoothing small imperfections. The clay is cool beneath his touch, even in the warmth of the afternoon. There is a stillness in his work, a quiet focus that does not feel heavy. The pot does not need to be perfect. It needs to be strong. It needs to serve its purpose. And so, with each small adjustment, it moves closer to that quiet goal. Beyond the village, along the edge of the river, a few figures walk slowly. They carry nets, simple and worn. Their steps are measured, their eyes calm. The water of the Nile moves beside them, unchanged, its surface reflecting the afternoon light in soft, shifting patterns. They reach a familiar place along the bank. There is no need to search. The river provides, as it always has. The nets are lowered into the water. The movement is gentle. No sudden splashes, only the quiet entry of the net into the flowing current. They wait. There is no impatience. Time is not something to be hurried here. It is something to be lived within. The breeze moves again,
slightly stronger now. It carries with it the scent of water and earth. It brushes against the surface of the river, creating small ripples that catch the light. Back in the fields, the work continues steadily. The sun begins its slow descent. Its light softens further, taking on a warmer tone. The shadows grow longer. They stretch across the soil, reaching toward the edges of the fields. The heat begins to ease, not quickly, but gradually. A quiet relief spreads through the air. The men continue their work, but their movements begin to slow once more, not from exhaustion, but from the natural rhythm of the day. They know the light will fade. They know the time for rest will come again. And so, without needing to speak, they begin to bring their tasks toward a gentle pause. Tools are set down carefully, not dropped, not forgotten, placed in familiar spots where they will be found again with ease. The oxen are guided away from the fields. Their work, too, comes to a quiet end for the day. They move calmly, their steps steady, their bodies relaxed. Back in the village, preparations for the evening begin, not as a separate event, but as a continuation of the day's gentle flow. A woman gathers small pieces of wood. Another checks the clay vessels, ensuring they are ready for use. Someone else brings water from the river once more, the jar balanced carefully, the path familiar beneath their feet. The light continues to change. The sky shifts slowly, the blue deepening, the edges warming with soft hints of gold. The sun lowers, approaching the distant line of the land, and with it the entire world seems to soften. The sounds grow quieter, the movements slower, the air cooler. The day, which began in stillness, now begins to return to it once more. And in this gentle return, the people of ancient Egypt continue their quiet lives, unhurried, unchanged, moving softly with the rhythm of the river, the sun, and the land itself, as the afternoon drifts toward evening.
The evening begins in a very quiet way. There is no clear moment when the afternoon ends and the evening takes its place. The change comes slowly, like a gentle dimming of light that happens so softly it is almost unnoticed. Across the land of ancient Egypt, the sun lowers closer to the horizon. Its warmth fades little by little. Its light softens into a deeper gold. The long shadows stretch even farther now, reaching across the fields, slipping between the homes, and resting quietly along the narrow paths that wind toward the Nile River. The air begins to cool. It is not sudden. It is not sharp. It is a slow release from the heat of the day, a gentle easing. In the fields, the last movements of work come to an end. The men stand quietly for a moment, looking out across the land they have tended. The soil lies calm and still, holding the marks of their work. There is no sense of urgency to leave, only a quiet understanding that the day has given what it could. Tools are gathered again, lifted carefully, carried without strain. The oxen are guided along familiar paths, their pace steady, their presence calm. Their work is done. The fields grow quiet. Only the soft movement of the evening breeze remains, brushing lightly over the surface of the earth. Back in the village, the shift toward evening becomes more noticeable. Small fires are lit once more. Thin lines of smoke rise gently into the cooling air, drifting slowly upward before fading into the darkening sky. The smell of wood and warmth spreads softly through the space between the homes. It is a familiar scent, comforting, steady. A woman kneels near one of the fires.
She places a simple clay vessel above the flame. Inside, food begins to warm. There is no rushing. The fire does its work slowly. The heat builds gradually. Nearby, another person prepares flatbread. The dough is shaped by hand, pressed gently, turned slowly. Each movement is careful and practiced. The bread is placed near the heat, where it begins to cook, its surface changing slowly, releasing a warm, simple scent. Children gather close, not crowded, not noisy. They sit quietly, watching the process. Their eyes follow the movements of the hands, learning without being told. The light continues to fade. The sky shifts from gold to soft orange, then to deeper shades that settle quietly along the horizon. Above, the first hints of evening blue begin to appear. The sun moves lower. Its edge touches the distant land, and slowly, almost gently, it begins to disappear. Along the riverbank, the surface of the Nile River reflects these changing colors. Gold becomes orange. Orange becomes soft red. The water carries these colors with quiet motion, stretching them into long, gentle patterns that move with the current. A small boat drifts along the river, its shape dark against the glowing water. The person guiding it moves slowly, their actions smooth and unhurried. There is no need to rush back. The evening welcomes them just as it welcomes everyone else. Back in the village, people begin to gather in small groups, not for celebration, not for loud conversation, simply to be near one another. They sit close to the fires or along the walls of the homes where the warmth of the day still lingers in the bricks. Food is shared, small portions, passed from hand to hand. Each person takes what they need, no more, no less. The act of eating is quiet. There are no raised voices, only soft sounds, the gentle breaking of bread, the quiet movement of hands, the steady rhythm of breathing. The air feels different now, cooler, softer. The heat of the day has faded into memory. A light breeze moves through the village once more, brushing gently against skin, carrying with it the scent of earth, water, and fire. An older man begins to speak. His voice is low, slow. It does not rise above the quiet of the evening. It becomes part of it. He tells something familiar, not a story of excitement, not something meant to stir strong emotion, but something steady, something known, perhaps a simple memory, perhaps a quiet observation. The others listen, not with urgency, not with expectation. They listen in the same way they watch the fire or feel the breeze, with calm attention. Children lean slightly closer. Their eyes grow softer, their movements slower. The long day has gently worn away their energy. The warmth of the fire and the softness of the evening begin to settle around them like a quiet blanket. Above, the sky deepens. The last light of the sun fades completely. In its place, a darker blue spreads slowly across the sky. The first stars begin to appear, small points of light, steady and distant. They do not flicker wildly. They remain calm, unchanging. The village grows quieter still. Some people rise and begin to move back toward their homes. Their steps are slow, unhurried. The ground beneath them now cool once more. Inside the homes, the air feels still and calm. The heat held in the walls during the day now begins to fade, leaving behind a gentle warmth that slowly disappears into the night. Mats are laid out again, simple, familiar. A child lies down first, curling slightly, their breathing already slowing. Another follows. An adult sits for a moment longer, watching the dim light from outside, listening to the soft sounds of the night beginning. From far away, the faint sound of the river can still be heard, a quiet, steady presence, always moving, always the same. The person finally lies down. The body settles into rest. There is no struggle, no tension, only a gradual release. Outside, the fires burn lower. Their light softens, their warmth fading gently. The village, once filled with the quiet movements of the day, now rests in stillness. Above, the stars become clearer. More of them appear, filling the sky with soft, distant light. The air grows cooler. The breeze slows. Even the animals settle. A goat lies quietly. A bird rests with its head tucked close. Everything returns to stillness. And in this stillness, the land of ancient Egypt rests once more, held between the memory of the day and the quiet promise of another to come. Nothing is rushed, nothing is forced. Everything simply fades into the calm and gentle quiet of the night.
The night settles fully now over the land of ancient Egypt. It does not arrive suddenly. It deepens, slowly, gently, like a soft layer of darkness placed over everything that came before. The last glow of evening has faded from the horizon. The sky is now a deep and quiet blue, almost black in its stillness. Above, the stars remain steady, scattered across the wide open space, each one calm and distant. They do not move in any way that can be easily seen. They simply exist, unchanging, silent. Below them, the land rests. The village, which only a short while ago held the quiet sounds of evening activity, has grown still. The small fires that once glowed softly have burned low, their embers now faint and dim, giving off only the slightest warmth. A thin line of smoke rises from one of them, drifting upward before disappearing into the night air. The breeze has slowed even further. It moves only occasionally now, brushing lightly against the walls of the mud brick homes, stirring the edges of woven mats, and then becoming still again. Inside one of the homes, the family lies at rest. Their bodies are close together, not out of necessity alone, but out of quiet comfort. The air inside feels calm, protected from the open space outside. The ground beneath them is firm, familiar. Their breathing is slow, even. There are no sudden movements. Sleep has come gently. Outside, the sounds of the night are few. From a distance, the soft, continuous presence of the Nile River can still be heard. It flows as it always has, without pause, without change, a quiet, steady sound that never disappears. Occasionally, a small movement can be heard, the faint step of an animal shifting in its rest, the soft rustle of something passing through the dry grass. These sounds do not disturb the silence. They become part of it. Near the edge of the village, a figure remains awake, not from restlessness, not from worry, but from habit. The person sits quietly, their back resting against the outer wall of a home. Their eyes move slowly across the darkened landscape, not searching for anything in particular, but simply observing. The night feels different from the day, not empty, but quieter, slower. The shapes of the land are softened. The clear lines seen in daylight are replaced by gentler shadows. The familiar path toward the river is still there, but now it blends into the darkness, known more by memory than by sight. The person listens. The sound of the river, the distant call of a night bird, the quiet breathing of the village behind them. There is a calm in this moment, a stillness that does not feel heavy, only peaceful. After some time, the person rises slowly. There is no need to remain awake longer. The night belongs to rest. They step inside, moving carefully so as not to disturb those already asleep.
The door is closed softly, and the space returns to complete quiet. The hours of the night pass in this way, without interruption, without urgency. Time continues, but it does not press. It moves as gently as the river itself. Above, the stars shift slowly across the sky. Their movement is so gradual that it can only be felt over long stretches of time. They drift from one place to another, tracing paths that have been followed for countless nights. Somewhere in the distance, beyond the village, the desert remains still. Its wide, open space holds the night in silence. The sand, which had been warm during the day, now cools beneath the open sky. The air above it feels calm, untouched by movement. The land, the river, the sky, all exist together in quiet balance, and within this balance, the people rest. Their lives, shaped by the steady rhythm of each day, follow the same gentle pattern through the night. Sleep is not forced, it is not chased. It comes naturally, carried by the slow passing of time and the absence of disturbance. Hours pass. The darkness remains deep. And then, very slowly, almost imperceptibly, a change begins. At first, it is nothing more than a slight softening of the sky. The blackness fades into a very deep blue. The stars remain, but their brightness begins to lessen just slightly. The air shifts. It grows cooler for a brief time, holding the last quiet breath of the night. This is the earliest sign, the first hint that the cycle will begin again. Inside the homes, no one stirs yet. The village remains at rest, but the world itself begins to prepare. Along the horizon, a faint, pale light forms. It is not bright. It does not spread quickly. It simply appears, a quiet presence at the edge of the land. The river reflects this change before anything else. Its surface, once dark and still, begins to hold a soft, faint glow. The movement of the water becomes slightly more visible again, though it never truly disappeared. The breeze returns in the lightest way, a gentle motion across the land, almost too soft to feel. The stars fade further. One by one, they disappear into the brightening sky, and still the village remains asleep. The people rest in the final moments of night, unaware of the quiet transformation taking place outside. The darkness continues to lift. The deep blue softens into gray. The horizon grows lighter. And slowly, patiently, the first signs of morning return once more to the land of ancient Egypt, not as something new, but as something familiar, something expected. The same beginning returning again, just as it always has, just as it always will. And in this gentle return of light, the next day begins to form, waiting quietly for the first soft movements of waking life to begin again.
The morning returns in the same gentle way it always does over the land of ancient Egypt. There is no sharp beginning, no sudden light, only a slow, quiet unfolding. The faint glow along the horizon grows a little stronger, spreading softly across the sky. The deep blue of the night fades into pale gray, then into a calm and gentle blue that stretches above the still sleeping village. The stars have nearly disappeared now. Only a few remain, faint and distant, before they too slip away into the brightness of the coming day. The air holds a coolness that feels soft against the skin. It will not last long, but for now it lingers, wrapping the land in a quiet calm. Along the banks of the Nile River, the surface of the water reflects the early light. It moves as it always has, slowly, steadily, without pause. The gentle sound of it continues, unchanged, a quiet presence that has carried through the night and into the morning. In the village, the first signs of waking begin once more. Inside one of the mud brick homes, a person shifts slightly. A slow breath, a small movement. The body begins to return from rest. There is no rush to rise, no need to hurry. The world outside is only just beginning to wake. The person opens their eyes, though the light is still soft and dim. They remain still for a moment, listening. The silence of the early morning is not empty. It is filled with very small sounds. The distant call of a bird, the faint whisper of the breeze, the soft breathing of others nearby. These sounds arrive gently, one at a time. The person sits up slowly. The air feels cool against their skin. The ground beneath them is firm and familiar, just as it was the day before and the day before that. Around them, the others begin to stir as well. A child turns slightly, then curls closer before slowly waking. Another shifts, stretching gently, still wrapped in the quiet softness of sleep. No one speaks at first. There is no need. The morning does not ask for words. It asks only for presence. One person rises and moves toward the doorway. The door opens with a soft, worn sound. Outside, the light has grown slightly stronger. The horizon now holds a pale gold, and the shapes of the village begin to appear more clearly. The person steps out. The ground is cool beneath their feet. The air feels fresh. They pause, just as many others do at this hour, looking out across the quiet land. This moment is always the same, and yet it never feels repeated. It is simply part of the rhythm. Nearby, another door opens, then another. People step out into the morning light, their movements slow and calm. A woman lifts a clay jar once more. Its surface is smooth, shaped by careful hands, carrying the marks of its making. She holds it with ease, balancing it as she begins the familiar walk toward the river. Others join her along the path. Their steps are quiet, their pace steady. No one rushes ahead, no one falls behind. The path itself feels known, each small stone, each gentle turn, remembered without thought. As they approach the Nile, the sound of the water becomes clearer again, a soft, continuous motion, never loud, never still. The river reflects the early light, its surface touched with pale gold and soft blue. The woman kneels at the edge. She lowers the jar slowly into the water. The surface ripples outward, then settles once more. She lifts the jar again, now filled, its weight familiar. For a brief moment, she looks out across the river. The far bank rests quietly in the morning light. The reeds stand still. The land beyond stretches into calm distance. There is no need to stay longer. She rises and turns back toward the village. The others do the same, returning along the same path, their movements unchanged. Back in the village, the first small fires begin again. Thin lines of smoke rise into the morning air. The scent of wood returns, soft and steady. Inside the homes, simple preparations begin. Grain is brought forward. A flat stone is placed in position. The slow, steady motion of grinding begins once more. Back and forth, back and forth. The sound is soft, rhythmic. It fills the quiet space without disturbing it. A child watches again, just as before. Their eyes follow the movement, learning through stillness. Outside, the sun begins to rise. Its edge appears slowly above the horizon. The light grows warmer. Shadows stretch long across the ground once more.
The coolness of the morning begins its gradual fade. In the fields, men begin to gather again. Tools are lifted, hands settle into familiar grips. There is no need to discuss the work. Each person knows what to do. The path to the fields is walked again, feet pressing lightly into the earth. The land waits quietly, ready. The soil holds the memory of yesterday's work, and the work begins again, not as something new, but as a continuation. The same steady movements, the same careful placement of seeds, the same gentle turning of soil. Nearby, the oxen begin their slow, steady movement once more, their presence calm, their strength used with quiet care. Above, the sky continues to brighten. The pale blue deepens, the sun climbs higher, the warmth begins to return. Back in the village, the rhythm of daily life settles once more into place. The weaving continues, the shaping of clay resumes. Water is used carefully, food is prepared slowly. Everything follows the same gentle pattern. Nothing is rushed, nothing is forced. Each action flows into the next, and within this flow there is a quiet sense of balance, a feeling that everything is as it should be. Time moves forward, the morning deepens, the light grows stronger. The sounds of the village become slightly more present, but never loud, always soft, always steady. And once again, the land of ancient Egypt lives through another day, not as something different, but as something familiar, something known, a quiet cycle that continues day after day, carried gently by the movement of the river, the rising of the sun, and the calm rhythm of life itself.
The day in the land of ancient Egypt continues its quiet movement forward. There is no change that feels sudden, only slow shifts like soft breathing through time. The sun rises higher now, holding the sky in a steady warmth. Its light spreads evenly across the village, across the fields, and across the long, calm path that leads toward the Nile River. The river remains constant. It does not hurry. It does not pause. It simply flows, as it always has, carrying the quiet reflection of the sky above it. In the village, life continues in its familiar rhythm. The early morning tasks have already begun to settle into steady work. Inside one of the homes, a woman continues shaping bread. Her hands move with calm repetition. The dough is soft beneath her fingers. It changes slowly with each press, each turn, each gentle adjustment. There is no need for attention beyond the moment, no thought of anything else, only the work itself. Nearby, a small fire burns with a steady flame. A clay pot rests above it, warming slowly. The heat rises in soft waves, blending with the morning air that now carries the growing warmth of the sun. A child sits close by, still, quiet, watching, not asking questions, only observing the movement of hands, fire, and food. Outside, the village path is gently active. People move between homes and open spaces, carrying small objects, water jars, or bundles of fibers. Their steps are steady, unhurried. Each person follows a familiar path, one that has been walked many times before. The ground beneath them is dry now, warmed by the sun, holding the memory of countless footsteps. In the fields, the work continues with the same quiet persistence. The men move slowly through the rows of soil, their hands guiding tools with practiced ease. The earth responds gently, turning, shifting, accepting each movement without resistance. The oxen walk in their steady rhythm, their pace unchanged, their breathing calm. The sound of their movement blends into the wider silence of the land. Above, the sky remains clear, a soft blue stretched endlessly overhead. No clouds break its calm surface. The sun continues its path, steady and unwavering. Back in the village, another small task begins to take shape. A group of people work together near a shaded wall. Their hands move with fibers, weaving them into baskets. The motion is repetitive. Over, under, tighten, repeat. The pattern slowly forms into something useful, something that will hold grain, water, or simple goods needed for daily life. There is no rush in their work, only a shared rhythm. Occasionally, a soft exchange of words passes between them. Not many, just enough to acknowledge presence, just enough to maintain connection. Nearby, an older man shapes a piece of wood. He sits quietly, his posture relaxed, his movements slow and careful. Each cut is small, each adjustment deliberate. The wood takes shape gradually, becoming a tool meant to be used in the fields. Simple, practical, necessary. In another part of the village, a woman walks slowly toward a storage area. Inside are containers of grain, carefully kept. She opens one with care, her movements practiced and familiar. The grain inside is dry and steady. She takes only what is needed, nothing more, nothing wasted. This quiet sense of balance runs through every action. In the distance, the Nile River continues its soft movement. Its surface glows under the midday sun. Light dances across it in small shifting patterns that change with every moment. A small boat appears again on the water. It moves slowly, guided by a single person. The motion is smooth, effortless in appearance, though guided by steady hands. The boat becomes part of the river itself, blending into its calm flow. Back in the fields, the heat of the day begins to grow stronger again. The sun now stands higher, its warmth spreading across the land. The workers slow slightly, adjusting to the rising temperature. Movements become more measured, breathing becomes deeper. The rhythm of work adapts without interruption. There is no pause in life, only adjustment, a gentle response to the changing light. In the village, shade becomes more important again. People shift toward walls, under roofs, or under simple coverings made from woven materials. The shade offers relief, a quiet coolness compared to the open sun. Inside these shaded spaces, work continues at a softer pace. The weaving, the shaping, the preparing of food, all continue without breaking their flow. Even rest becomes part of the rhythm, a seated moment, a pause between tasks, a quiet breath. Time continues its slow movement. The sun reaches its peak again. The world holds steady beneath it. No rush, no interruption, only the steady presence of heat, light, and life moving together. And within this steady balance, the people of ancient Egypt continue their day, not separate from the land, not above it, but fully within it, living in quiet harmony with the river, the soil, and the sun that guides each passing hour. And as the afternoon slowly begins to approach once more, the rhythm of life remains unchanged, soft, patient, and endlessly calm.
The afternoon settles again over the land of ancient Egypt in that familiar, slow way, where nothing feels like it is beginning or ending, only continuing, only flowing. The sun has moved past its highest point, and now it begins its long, quiet descent toward the far edge of the sky. Its light is still strong, but it no longer feels sharp. It becomes softer, spreading across the land in a warm, even glow. Shadows begin to return. They stretch gently across the fields, across the village paths,
and across the still surface of the Nile River. In the fields, the workers continue their steady rhythm. Their movements are slower now, shaped by the growing warmth of the afternoon. Hands guide tools through the soil with familiar ease. There is no urgency, only repetition, only care. The earth responds in its quiet way, turning and shifting under each motion, as if it has known this pattern forever. The oxen walk with the same steady patience as before. Their bodies move forward without resistance. Their presence feels almost like part of the land itself. Breath, earth, and movement blend into one continuous rhythm. In the village, the sound of daily life remains soft and constant. Inside shaded spaces, people continue their work. A woman sits near a low wall, shaping clay with slow, deliberate hands. The clay is cool at first, then warms slightly as she works it. It bends under pressure. It holds shape under care. A simple vessel begins to form, not rushed, not forced, just gradually becoming what it is meant to be. Nearby, another person tends a small woven mat. The fibers are pulled through one another with steady attention. Over, under, pull, settle. The pattern repeats again and again. Each small movement adds to something larger, something useful, something lasting. A child sits nearby, legs folded beneath them. They do not speak, they simply watch. The rhythm of hands and materials becomes a quiet lesson, one that does not need words. Outside, the air shifts slightly. A faint breeze moves through the village. It carries the scent of warm earth and distant water from the Nile River. The breeze is brief. It passes through and fades again, but for a moment it softens everything it touches. Farther along the riverbank, a few people move slowly with nets and baskets. Their steps are careful, measured. The river continues its steady motion beside them. It never changes its direction. It never forgets its path. It simply flows forward, carrying reflections of sky and sun. One of the fishermen lowers a net into the water. The motion is smooth, almost silent. The net disappears beneath the surface without disturbance. Then they wait. There is no impatience, only time passing in its natural way. Back in the village, the afternoon heat begins to ease slightly. Not quickly, not noticeably at first, but slowly, like a breath releasing. People adjust without thinking. Some shift their position closer to shade. Others pause their work for a short rest. Water is shared again, drunk slowly, carefully, each sip a small relief from the warmth of the day. Inside one home, a man carves a small tool from wood. His hands move with quiet precision. The blade meets the surface, shaving off thin pieces that fall gently to the ground. The shape becomes clearer over time. Simple, practical, meant for use, not display. Nearby, a woman arranges grain in a container. She checks it carefully, smoothing the top with her hand before closing it again. Everything has its place. Everything is kept with quiet attention. In another corner of the village, a group gathers briefly under shade. They sit close enough to share space, but not crowded. Their conversation is soft, short phrases, long pauses, the kind of speaking that does not demand attention, but simply exists alongside the sound of wind and distant water. Above them, the sky begins to shift again. The blue deepens slightly. The brightness softens. The sun moves lower, slowly drawing the day toward its next transition. The fields grow calmer. The workers begin to slow their pace, not stopping yet,
just easing, letting the day begin to loosen its grip. Tools are lifted less often, movements become smaller. The rhythm gently softens, like a song fading into quiet. The oxen are guided to rest once more. Their steps remain steady until the very end. Then they too slow, their work complete for this stretch of time. Across the land, everything begins to lean gently toward evening again, not as an ending, but as a continuation of the same slow cycle. The village, the river, the fields, and the sky all move together in this shared rhythm. Nothing breaks it, nothing rushes it, everything follows it. And as the light begins its long, quiet descent once more, the land of ancient Egypt remains peaceful, steady, and unchanged, waiting for the soft return of evening.
Evening returns again to the land of ancient Egypt in the same gentle way it always does. There is no clear moment where afternoon becomes evening, only a slow fading of light, only a soft cooling of the air. The sun lowers closer to the horizon, and the world begins to shift into calmer tones. Gold becomes orange, orange becomes soft amber, and slowly even that begins to fade into a quieter, deeper color as the day prepares to end. Across the fields, work finally slows to its natural close. The last movements are careful and unhurried. Tools are lifted one final time. Soil is left undisturbed. Everything is brought to rest with quiet attention, as if the land itself is being gently set down after a long day of steady work. The oxen are guided away without resistance. Their steps are slow, familiar, and calm. They do not look back. They simply follow the path home. Along the way, the fields grow quieter behind them, as if the land is exhaling after holding its effort through the day. The village begins to change again, not suddenly, not loudly, but in small, familiar ways. Small fires appear, one by one. Their light is soft and warm, flickering gently as they come to life. Thin smoke rises upward, drifting into the cooling air above the village. The smell of burning wood returns, familiar, comforting, steady. Inside one home, a woman prepares the evening meal. Flatbread is placed near the heat. A clay pot rests above the fire, warming slowly. The food inside is simple, but carefully made. There is no excess, only what is needed for the evening. Nearby, a child sits close to the firelight. Their face is softly illuminated by the glow. They watch the movement of the flames without speaking. The fire does not demand attention. It simply exists, constantly shifting, always gentle. Outside, the village gathers slowly, not all at once, in small groups. People sit near walls, near fires, or on woven mats placed in familiar spots. They come together not for purpose, but for presence, to share space, to share quiet. Food is passed from hand to hand. Bread is broken slowly. Portions are small, but shared evenly. There is no urgency in eating. Each bite is taken calmly, as if the act itself is part of the evening's quiet rhythm. The sky continues its transformation above them. The last light of the sun touches the horizon. It lingers there for a moment, soft and fading. Then it slowly slips away. The day ends without ceremony, without interruption, only a gradual fading into night. Along the river, the Nile River reflects the final colors of the sky. The surface holds them gently, then slowly lets them go. The water continues its steady motion, unchanged by the passing of the day. A small boat drifts near the bank, its silhouette dark against the remaining light.
The person guiding it moves with quiet familiarity. There is no rush to return. The river and the evening allow a slow return. Back in the village, voices grow softer, conversations become fewer, long pauses stretch between words. The warmth of the fires now replaces the warmth of the sun. It is different, but familiar, the kind of warmth that gathers people closer rather than pushing them apart. An older person speaks quietly. Their voice is low, steady, almost blending into the sound of the fire. Others listen without interruption. There is no need for reply, only presence, only listening. Above them, the first stars begin to appear again, one by one, then more, until the sky becomes a quiet field of distant light. The air cools further. The breeze returns gently, moving through the village in soft waves. It passes over the fires, over the people, over the sleeping edges of the fields beyond, and then it fades again. Inside the homes, people begin to settle for the night. Mats are arranged, bodies rest slowly. Children lie down first, their movements small and slow. Adults follow soon after. There is no resistance to sleep. It arrives naturally, like the evening itself. Outside, the fires continue to burn, but lower now. Their light grows softer, their shapes smaller. The village begins to quiet fully. Sounds fade, movements stop, breathing slows. And once again, the land of ancient Egypt enters its night, not as an ending, but as a continuation of the same endless rhythm, a cycle that never breaks, only turns, gently, steadily, quietly. As the darkness deepens and the stars hold their silent places in the sky, the world rests again.
Night returns fully once again over the land of ancient Egypt. It does not arrive in a single moment. It spreads, slowly, quietly, like a soft curtain drawn across the sky. The last traces of evening light are now gone, and the world rests beneath a deep, steady darkness. Above, the stars remain scattered across the sky, calm, distant, unmoving in any way that can be easily felt. They are simply there, as they always are, holding their quiet positions through the long hours of the night. Below them, the village is still. The fires have grown smaller now. Only glowing embers remain in most places, offering faint warmth and a very soft light. Occasionally, a tiny spark lifts into the air and disappears into the darkness. The sound of the Nile River continues in the distance. It is not loud, not sharp, only a steady presence, flowing through the night as it always has, unchanged by the passing of the day. Inside the homes, sleep deepens. Bodies rest fully now. Breathing is slow and even. The spaces are quiet, filled only with the soft stillness of night. Outside, the village feels suspended in time. Nothing moves quickly. Nothing disturbs the calm. Even the wind is gentle, passing lightly over the roofs and then fading again into silence. Far from the center of the village, a single figure remains awake. This is not unusual. Some nights always hold someone who watches quietly, even if only for a short time. The person sits near the edge of a wall, wrapped lightly against the coolness of the night air. Their posture is relaxed. Their gaze rests on the dark shapes of the land. There is no searching, no expectation, only quiet awareness. The river is not visible in full, but its presence is known through sound and memory, a steady reminder that the world is still moving, even when everything else appears to be at rest. After some time, the figure shifts slightly. They adjust their position, then stand slowly. There is no urgency in the movement, only a natural sense that the moment has passed. They turn and walk back toward the home. The door opens softly, closes gently, and the village returns to complete stillness once more. Hours pass. The night deepens further. The air grows cooler, but never harsh. It remains soft, as if the land itself is resting under a quiet blanket of darkness. Above, the stars begin their slow journey across the sky, so gradual that no single moment reveals their movement. Only time itself can show it. In this long stillness, everything feels balanced. The river continues. The land rests. The sky watches, and the people sleep. There is no interruption, no disturbance, only continuity. Then, very slowly, as before, a change begins, not in sound, not in movement, but in light. A faint softness appears along the far edge of the horizon, so subtle at first that it almost blends into the darkness itself. But it grows, little by little. The stars begin to lose their sharpness. The deepest black of night starts to soften into a very dark blue. The air shifts slightly, becoming cooler for a brief moment, as if the world is taking one last deep breath before waking again. Inside the homes, no one stirs yet. Sleep still holds the village gently, but outside, the change continues. The faint glow along the horizon becomes clearer, a thin, pale line of light forming at the edge of the land. The river reflects it first. A soft shimmer appears on its surface, barely visible, moving gently with the water. The desert beyond remains still, holding the darkness a little longer than the sky above it. The stars begin to fade one by one, quietly, without sound, until only a few remain, and even they grow faint. The village remains asleep, held in the final moments of night, not aware yet of the shift happening all around them. The world continues its slow turning. The sky brightens slightly more. Dark blue softens into gray, and the horizon begins to glow with the earliest suggestion of morning. It is not yet day, but it is no longer deep night. It is the space between, the quiet return, the beginning of another cycle. And in this gentle transition, everything remains still, waiting for the first soft movements of waking life to begin again.
The morning returns once again over the land of ancient Egypt in that same quiet, patient way that has no beginning that can truly be marked. Only a gradual unfolding, only a soft spreading of light. The horizon slowly brightens, moving from deep gray into a pale, gentle gold. The stars fade without sound, one by one, until the sky becomes open and calm again. The world feels familiar, as it always does at this hour, still resting, still quiet, but slowly preparing to wake. Along the banks of the Nile River, the water reflects the new light in soft, broken patterns. The surface is calm, moving steadily as it always has, carrying the faint memory of the night into the beginning of day. In the village, nothing moves quickly. The first signs of waking are small. A shift beneath a woven mat, a slow breath becoming deeper, a hand moving slightly in the dim light of a home. There is no rush, no urgency, only the return of awareness. A child opens their eyes slowly. They remain still for a moment, listening to the quiet around them. The sound of the river is distant but constant. The faint movement of air through the open doorway is soft and cool. The world outside is still dim, but growing lighter with each passing moment. One by one, others begin to wake. There are no spoken words at first, only small movements, only the gentle transition from sleep to presence. A person sits up slowly. They pause, letting the body adjust. The ground beneath them is familiar, unchanged from the night before. Everything feels as it should be. Outside, the sky continues to brighten. The pale glow along the horizon becomes stronger, spreading upward into soft blue. The night is gone now, but the day has not yet fully arrived. It is the in-between moment again, that quiet space where everything feels suspended. A door opens softly. A person steps outside. The air feels cool against the skin, carrying a freshness that will not last long. They pause, standing still for a moment, looking across the village. The same homes, the same paths, the same river in the distance, all resting in the early light. This familiarity brings a quiet sense of calm. Nothing has changed, and yet everything is beginning again. Another door opens nearby, then another. Slowly the village begins to stir. People move along familiar paths, their steps unhurried. A woman lifts a clay jar. Its surface is cool and smooth. She balances it carefully as she begins the walk toward the river once more. Others follow along the same route, their presence quiet, their movements steady. The path to the river is the same as always, worn gently by countless footsteps over time. As they approach the water, the sound becomes clearer. The Nile moves with its constant rhythm, never loud, never still, always present. The woman kneels at the edge once more. She lowers the jar into the water. A soft ripple spreads outward, then fades. She fills it slowly, without hurry, then lifts it again, heavier now, but familiar in weight. For a brief moment, she looks across the river. The far bank rests in soft morning light, still, peaceful, unchanging. She rises and turns back toward the village. Others do the same, returning along the same quiet path they always follow. Back in the village, small fires begin again. Thin smoke rises gently into the air. The smell of wood returns softly, blending with the coolness of morning. Inside the homes, grain is prepared. Stone tools are placed in familiar positions. The steady rhythm of daily life begins once more. Grinding, mixing, shaping, each motion slow and repeated, each movement part of something larger that does not need to be spoken. In the fields, workers gather again. Tools are lifted, hands settle into familiar grips. The land awaits them, as it always does, patient, ready, unchanging. And so the cycle continues. The same gentle rhythm returns again and again. Morning becoming work, work becoming rest, rest becoming night, and night returning once more into morning. A cycle that does not hurry, does not break, only flows, softly, steadily, endlessly. And as the light continues to rise over ancient Egypt once again, the day begins to unfold in its quiet, familiar way, just as it always has, and just as it always will.
The morning light now settles more fully over the land of ancient Egypt. It no longer feels like a transition. It feels like presence, a complete return of day, soft and steady, spreading evenly across the land without hurry or force. The sky is now a calm blue, gentle and wide, holding no tension, no movement except the slow passing of light itself. Along the banks of the Nile River, the water reflects this calm brightness in broken, shimmering pieces. The river does not change its rhythm for the morning. It continues exactly as it always has, steady, patient, uninterrupted. In the village, daily life continues to rise into its full shape, not suddenly, not loudly, but in small, familiar ways that repeat across homes and generations. A woman kneels again near a grinding stone. Her hands move in a slow, practiced rhythm. Grain is pressed, turned, and pressed again. The sound is soft, repetitive, almost like breathing made visible through motion. Nearby, another person prepares clay. Water is added in small amounts. The texture changes gradually under careful hands. It becomes smooth, then workable, then shaped into something useful for the day ahead. There is no need to rush these tasks. Time is present in abundance. The morning allows everything to take its natural pace. Children move nearby, not far from the homes. Their steps are light. They carry small objects. Sometimes they stop simply to watch the movement of adults at work. Everything around them feels stable, predictable, safe in its repetition. At the edge of the village, the path toward the fields becomes more active again. Workers gather slowly, forming small groups without arrangement. It happens naturally, as it always does. No one directs it. No one needs to. The rhythm is already known. Tools are carried over shoulders. Hands adjust straps and bindings. The weight of the day's work is accepted without hesitation. As they move out toward the fields, the land opens around them. Wide stretches of soil, flat and patient ground shaped by countless seasons. The fields are not silent. They carry small sounds, wind moving through dry stalks, footsteps pressing lightly into earth, the distant call of birds moving across the sky. Everything blends together into a soft background of life. Near the river, irrigation channels guide water slowly into the land. The flow is not forceful. It is directed gently, as if the water itself understands where it should go. It spreads into the soil, darkening it, preparing it, nourishing it in quiet, invisible ways. A farmer pauses briefly at the edge of a channel. They watch the water move for a moment. There is nothing urgent in this observation, only awareness, only a sense of continuity between river, land, and life. Then they continue walking, further into the fields, further into the day. Back in the village, the homes are now fully awake. Smoke rises steadily from small cooking fires. The smell of bread and heated grain drifts through the air. It is simple food, familiar food, the kind that does not need variation to be comforting. Inside one home, a family sits together in quiet rhythm. No formal beginning to the meal, no clear end, only sharing, only eating, only the presence of others nearby. Outside, the sun continues its slow climb, now higher in the sky, warmer in its touch, more direct in its light. Shadows shorten gently across the ground. The day moves forward without resistance. And yet, despite all this movement, nothing feels rushed. Everything remains within its own pace, within its own balance. The world of ancient Egypt continues as it always has. River flowing, fields working, homes resting between tasks, people moving through their day with quiet familiarity.
And above it all, the sky remains open and calm, holding the entire rhythm of life beneath it, steady and unchanged as another peaceful hour unfolds. The day continues to settle gently over the land of ancient Egypt, as if the morning has fully exhaled and now simply exists in a steady, quiet balance. The light is stronger now, but still soft at its edges. It does not feel harsh, it feels familiar. The kind of sunlight that has been seen many times before, in the same fields, over the same river, touching the same walls of homes that have stood for generations. Along the banks of the Nile River, life continues in its slow and steady rhythm. Water moves without pause, carrying small ripples that reflect the sky above in broken, shifting patterns. Nothing about the river feels new, and yet nothing about it ever feels old either. It simply continues, as it always has. In the fields, workers now move more deeply into their tasks. The early adjustments of the morning have faded into steady labor. Hands are no longer testing the ground or preparing tools. Now they are fully engaged in repetition, planting, guiding, smoothing soil. Each movement blends into the next without clear separation. A rhythm forms, not in sound, but in motion. A shared pattern among many people working in the same quiet direction. The land responds slowly, not immediately, but with patience. Soil darkens where water has passed. Seeds disappear beneath the surface. Everything is covered again, hidden but not forgotten. At the edge of the field, a worker pauses and straightens slightly. The air feels warmer now, not uncomfortable, just present. They wipe their hands gently against cloth, removing traces of earth. Then they continue. No one speaks loudly. Most words are unnecessary. Communication happens in brief exchanges. A glance, a gesture, a nod that confirms understanding without interruption. Farther back toward the village, life continues in parallel. Stone walls hold the heat of the day slowly. Shadows move across them in gradual arcs. Inside homes, people rest between tasks. Not sleep, but stillness. A quiet pause in the middle of ongoing life. A child sits near a doorway, watching light shift across the ground. Their attention lingers on small movements. Dust moving through sunlight. A breeze passing and then disappearing. A sound in the distance that cannot be fully identified and then fades again into silence. Everything is simple. Everything is close. Nothing demands more attention than what it already is. Near the river, a small group gathers to repair tools. Wood is checked. Stone edges are adjusted. Bindings are tightened with careful hands. There is no sense of urgency in fixing what is already familiar. Only maintenance, only continuation. Everything in this world is made to be used again and again. The sky above continues its slow arc. The sun moves higher, then steadier, not rushing, not stopping, just following its path across the same sky that has held it for countless days. The fields stretch quietly beneath it. The river continues beside it. The village rests within it. And life moves forward in small, repeated motions that feel almost like breathing itself. In the distance, a light wind passes over the land. It moves through reeds near the riverbank. It brushes across open soil. It reaches the village for only a moment before fading again into silence. Nothing is disturbed. Everything remains in place. And so the day continues in its soft, steady unfolding as ancient Egypt remains wrapped in its quiet rhythm of work, water, and time,
that never seems to end, only gently turns forward without effort or noise.
The afternoon settles gently over the land of ancient Egypt, arriving without announcement, without change in feeling, only a slow shift in the position of light across the earth. The sun now stands higher and more steady. Its warmth spreads evenly over fields, paths, and rooftops made of simple earth and reed. There is no urgency in the sky, only continuation, only presence. Along the long stretch of the Nile River, the water reflects this steady afternoon brightness in soft, broken patterns. The surface moves calmly, carrying small ripples that drift and dissolve without sound. The river does not change its rhythm for the time of day. It remains what it has always been, a constant line of movement through a quiet land. In the fields, labor continues in a slow and practiced way. By now, the early energy of morning has softened into endurance, not tiredness in a sharp sense, but a settled, familiar effort, the kind that comes from doing the same motions for long stretches of time. Hands press into soil, tools move through earth, water is guided through narrow channels that split and merge like quiet paths. The land receives everything without resistance. It holds each change briefly before becoming still again. Farther back, near the village, a few people return from the fields for rest. Their steps are unhurried. Their bodies carry the weight of work, but not strain. They move as if following a path they already know by heart. Inside the homes, the air is cooler than outside. Stone and shade keep the heat at a distance. People sit or lie down for short pauses, not sleep that ends the day, but rest that sits within it, a moment to let the body become still while the world continues outside. Near one doorway, a small group shares water. It is poured slowly, drunk without hurry, each movement careful, respectful of the simplicity of what is being shared. There is no excess in anything, only enough, only what is needed for this hour. Outside, the village remains quiet in its activity. Some repair tools again, others prepare materials for later use. A basket is woven strand by strand, a rope is checked for strength. A clay vessel is turned in the hands and examined with quiet attention. Everything is part of a cycle that never truly ends, only repeats, only continues. The sun begins its slow descent, though it is still high enough to hold the afternoon firmly in place. Light shifts slightly, becoming longer across the ground. Shadows stretch further than before. They do not rush, they simply extend. In the distance, the riverbank is calm. Reeds move gently with a passing breeze. The breeze is brief, soft, almost unnoticed, and then gone again. The river remains unchanged, always moving, always steady, always present beneath the shifting sky. A farmer pauses for a moment at the edge of a field. They look across the land without expression of urgency or concern, only observation, only awareness of the day continuing as it should. Then they turn and resume their work. No beginning is marked, no end is felt, only continuation. The world of ancient Egypt remains in this gentle balance between effort and stillness, between movement and rest, where even labor feels like part of a larger, quiet rhythm that never breaks, only flows forward with the same calm certainty as water moving through earth, as light moving through sky, as time moving without sound. The afternoon light begins to soften again over the land of ancient Egypt. Not suddenly, not noticeably at first, only a gradual change in the way shadows lie across the ground and the way the air feels slightly less sharp than before. The sun still holds its place in the sky, but it no longer feels like it is rising or climbing. It feels like it is slowly preparing to leave its highest point behind. Along the wide and steady path of the Nile River, the water continues its constant motion. It does not respond to the passing of hours. It does not change its pace for morning, afternoon, or evening. It simply moves, always forward, always present. In the fields, the rhythm of work remains steady, but now there is a subtle shift in energy. Not the stopping, not a pause, only a quiet easing within the movement. Hands still guide tools through soil. Water still flows through narrow channels, but each action feels slightly more measured than before, as if the day itself is becoming aware of its own length. Workers continue in small groups across the land. Some stand briefly upright before bending again into their tasks. Others adjust their footing, shifting weight from one side to the other. These are small, natural adjustments that do not interrupt the flow of work. They are part of it. At the edge of the village, the sound of activity is softer than earlier. Cooking fires are smaller now. Their smoke rises gently and disperses into the warm air above. The smell of grain and clay still lingers, but it is less strong than in the morning. Everything feels slightly quieter, as if the land itself is breathing more slowly. Inside the homes, shadows stretch across walls in long, calm shapes. A person sits near a wall and rests their arms loosely across their knees. Their posture is still, their breathing even. There is no urgency in their thoughts, only the passing of time in its gentle form. A child lies down for a short rest, not fully asleep, but not fully awake either. Their eyes close and open slowly, following no pattern, only comfort. Outside, the wind returns briefly. It moves across the river first, then over the fields, then through the village for only a moment before fading again. It is not strong. It does not change anything. It only passes through. The river remains steady beneath it, the same water, the same movement, the same quiet continuity that has always been there. As the afternoon deepens, the sun lowers slightly more. Shadows lengthen again. The color of light begins to soften toward a warmer tone. Not yet evening, but no longer the height of day. Workers in the fields begin to prepare for the gradual ending of tasks, not stopping at once, but finishing what is already in motion. One final smoothing of soil, one last adjustment of a channel, one final lift of a tool before it is carried away. Everything is completed slowly, with attention. Nothing is left unfinished in haste. In the distance, the village feels more still now, not empty, just quieter, as if the day is slowly drawing its breath inward. The river continues beside it all, unchanged and patient, carrying the same rhythm forward as the land, the sky, and the people move gently toward the evening that is slowly beginning to form beyond the light. The light over the land of ancient Egypt begins to soften in a more noticeable way now. Still gentle, still calm, but slowly changing into something closer to evening. The sun lowers little by little, and the long shadows across the ground become even longer, stretching quietly over fields, paths, and the edges of simple homes. Nothing rushes this change. It happens as it always has, without effort, without sound. Along the steady path of the Nile River, The water reflects this shift in color. The brightness of midday is gone. In its place is a softer glow, broken into small ripples that drift and fade as the current carries them forward. The river does not slow. It does not prepare. It simply continues, as if the passing of time does not require its attention. In the fields, the final parts of the day's work begin to settle into completion. Movements are still steady, but less dense than before. The sense of continuous labor begins to loosen gently, like a thread slowly relaxing after being held tight for hours. Workers begin to step back from the soil, not all at once, but gradually, one by one. A hand smooths the last patch of earth. A tool is lifted and carried away. A final look is given to the field, not as a task, but as a quiet acknowledgement of what has been done. There is no celebration, no conclusion, only completion. Near the village, small groups begin to form again along familiar paths. People walk slowly, returning from the fields in the same direction they left in earlier hours. Their movements are unhurried, their presence steady. The weight of the day is carried not in strain, but in familiarity. Inside the homes, light begins to shift in angle. Sunlight enters differently now, lower, softer, touching walls and floors with a warmer tone. Shadows grow deeper in corners, but they do not feel heavy. They feel natural, expected. A person sits quietly near a doorway and watches this change without moving. There is no need to speak, no need to respond, only observation of the day passing through its final hours. Outside, the wind returns again for a brief moment. It passes over the river first, then across the fields, and finally through the village in a soft sweep that lasts only a short time. It does not disturb anything. It only reminds the land that it is still breathing. Then it fades again. The river remains unchanged beneath it all. The same steady motion, the same patient flow, always continuing. As the sun lowers further, the colors of the land begin to warm, not bright anymore, but deepening into softer tones, gold turning toward amber, amber turning toward something quieter still. In the distance, the first signs of evening begin to gather, though they are not yet fully formed. The village grows calmer, not empty, just less active. Movements slow, voices become fewer, and long pauses stretch gently between small sounds of life continuing at its most natural pace. The day does not end yet, but it is no longer fully day. It is the slow edge of evening, a soft transition where everything begins to return toward stillness as ancient Egypt moves once again into the familiar rhythm of closing light, steady river, and quiet land preparing for the night that will soon arrive without interruption, just as it always does.
Evening now settles more clearly over the land of ancient Egypt. It does not arrive with change. It arrives with soft fading, a slow dimming of light that touches the fields, the river, and the village at the same time, as if the entire world is gently lowering its voice. The sun moves closer to the horizon, not in a sudden way, but in a long, quiet descent that feels natural, expected, and deeply familiar. Along the banks of the Nile River, the water begins to reflect the evening more strongly. The brightness of earlier hours is gone now. In its place, a calmer tone spreads across the surface, broken into soft patterns that drift and disappear with the current. The river does not change its rhythm. It never does. It continues forward, carrying the same steady movement through the fading light. In the fields, work has now fully ended. There is no remaining motion of labor, only the afterstate of it.
The soil rests where it has been shaped. Tools are no longer in use and are carried away slowly, held loosely in tired but calm hands. The land itself appears settled, as if it has accepted the day completely and is now ready to remain still for the night. Workers walk back toward the village in small, unorganized lines. No direction is needed. The path is already known. Each step feels lighter than earlier in the day, not because of less distance, but because the work has already been left behind. Inside the village, the change becomes more visible. Small fires appear again, one by one. Their light is soft and low, not bright enough to fill the space around them, but enough to mark presence, enough to bring people closer together. Smoke rises gently and disappears into the cooling air above. The smell of cooked grain and heated clay returns, familiar and steady. Inside homes, the movement of evening begins, not rushed, not structured, only natural. People gather what is needed for the night. Mats are adjusted. Containers are placed in familiar corners. Food is prepared in small amounts, simple and unchanged from many other evenings. A child sits near the firelight, watching it without speaking. The flames move slowly, shifting in shapes that never repeat exactly, yet feel constant in their presence. Outside, the wind returns once more. It passes across the river first, then the fields, then the village. It is softer now than before, more like a breath than a force. It lingers only briefly before fading again into still air. The river continues beneath it all, unchanged and uninterrupted. Its movement feels separate from the day and night, as if it belongs to a rhythm older than both. As the sun reaches lower, the sky begins to deepen in color. Warm tones stretch across the horizon. Gold becomes muted, orange becomes soft, and slowly the edges of daylight begin to dissolve into evening. People speak less now, not because there is nothing to say, but because the day itself is becoming quieter. Long pauses form naturally between sounds, between movements, between thoughts, and in this quieting world, everything begins to feel closer, softer, more contained within itself. The village does not fall silent, it simply lowers into a calmer state, a shared stillness that spreads gently from home to home, fire to fire, person to person. Above it all, the sky holds the final light of the day for a little longer before letting it fade completely, as ancient Egypt once again moves slowly toward night, guided not by urgency, but by the same steady rhythm that has always carried it from morning into evening and from evening into rest.
Night begins to arrive again over the land of ancient Egypt, not suddenly, but in the same slow and quiet way it always does. The last warmth of daylight fades from the ground. The sky softens into deeper tones, and the world begins to feel still again, as if it is gently lowering itself into rest. Along the banks of the Nile River, the water reflects the last pieces of evening light before they disappear completely. The surface is calm, moving with the same steady rhythm it has carried all day. No change in pace, no change in direction, only continuation. In the village, fires now hold the only visible light. Small, steady flames glow in quiet corners between homes. Their presence is soft. Their sound is almost nothing, just the faint movement of burning wood and the occasional shift of air passing through. People gather closer to these fires without thinking about it. It happens naturally, as if warmth itself is guiding them inward. Inside one home, a family sits together in quiet arrangement. No strict order, no formal structure, only shared space. Food is eaten slowly, without interruption. Hands move with calm repetition. Bread is broken into simple pieces. Water is passed gently from one person to another. Everything is familiar. Everything is enough. Outside, the wind moves again, but only lightly. It brushes across the river, then across the fields, and finally into the village before fading once more into stillness. It does not disturb anything. It only passes through, like a reminder that the world is still open and breathing beyond the glow of the fires. The sky above continues to darken. The remaining colors of sunset have fully disappeared now. What remains is a deepening blue that slowly becomes darker, more quiet, more complete. One by one, the first stars begin to appear again, not all at once, but slowly, patiently, like small points of light returning to their places in a familiar pattern. The village responds without movement. Nothing needs to change. The rhythm is already known. Inside the homes, bodies begin to settle. Mats are laid out. Children lie down first, their movements small and unresisting. Adults follow soon after. Sleep is not forced. It arrives gently as a continuation of rest that began long before night itself. Outside, the fires continue to glow, not brightly now, but steadily. Their light flickers softly against the darkening walls of homes and fades into the edges of the night around them. The river remains present in the distance. Even when it cannot be seen clearly, it is still known through sound and memory, a constant flow that does not change with the sky above it. As the stars multiply slowly across the heavens, the world becomes more quiet, not empty, just softened, reduced to the essential presence of night, firelight, and still air. And in this quiet return to darkness, ancient Egypt rests once more beneath the same endless sky that has watched over it through countless days and nights, carrying everything forward in a rhythm that never breaks, only continues, gently and without end.
Night is now fully present over the land of ancient Egypt. It does not feel new anymore. It feels settled, like something that has always been here and will continue to be here without needing attention. The sky is deep and calm, dark enough to hold the stars clearly, yet soft enough that nothing feels sharp or distant. Along the long, quiet stretch of the Nile River, the water continues its steady movement through the darkness. It cannot be fully seen now, but it can still be heard in the gentle way it flows past its banks, a constant sound, a constant presence, unchanging through every hour. In the village, firelight becomes the center of all visible life. Small flames remain in scattered places between homes. They do not grow. They do not spread. They simply stay as they are, offering warmth and a soft glow that barely reaches beyond their immediate space. People sit close to them, not in groups formed by purpose, but in natural arrangements shaped by comfort and familiarity. Inside one home, the final movements of the evening slow even further. A hand adjusts a woven mat. A clay bowl is set down carefully. A small container of water is placed within reach for the night. Everything is arranged without hurry, as if the act of preparing for sleep is itself part of the same rhythm that carried the day. Outside, the wind passes once more. It moves gently over the river, then across the fields, then through the village in a quiet sweep that lasts only a moment before fading into stillness again.
It leaves no change behind, only a brief awareness that the world beyond the fires is still open and wide. Above, the stars continue to appear in greater number. They do not move in ways that can be felt. They simply become more visible, filling the sky with a quiet consistency that feels both distant and close at the same time. The darkness is not heavy. It is soft. It does not press down. It simply surrounds. Inside the homes, sleep begins to deepen. Not suddenly, not completely at once, but in gradual stages. A body relaxes, then stills, then becomes quiet. Breathing slows into a steady rhythm that blends with the quiet of the night outside. Children are already still. Adults follow gently after. There is no resistance, only surrender to a rest that feels natural and expected. The fires outside begin to lower further. Some turn into glowing embers rather than full flames. Their light becomes even softer, almost blending into the darkness around them. And yet they remain, marking small points of warmth scattered through the village like quiet reminders that life continues even in stillness. The river remains present beneath everything, not seen clearly, but known, always known, as something that continues regardless of light or darkness, day or night, movement or rest. The sky above holds its full night now, stars scattered in a calm pattern that does not change. Time continues forward, but without urgency, without interruption. And in this deep and peaceful darkness, the land rests once more, as it always has, under a sky that never truly ends, only shifts slowly from light into night, and from night back into light again, in a cycle that feels endless, steady, and quietly familiar.
The night over the land of ancient Egypt has now settled into its deepest quiet. There is no transition left to notice, only stillness that feels complete. The sky above is dark and wide, filled with countless stars that remain gently fixed in place, like soft points of light held carefully across an endless ceiling. No sound comes from the sky, only presence, only calm. Along the unseen path of the Nile River, the water continues to move in darkness. It cannot be seen clearly anymore, but its existence is known through the steady rhythm it always carries. The same motion, the same direction, never stopping, never changing its nature. In the village, everything has now become quiet in the most complete way. The fires have lowered further, many now reduced to dim embers that glow faintly in the dark. Their light is so soft that it barely reaches the ground around them, but they remain, quietly holding warmth in their center. Inside the homes, sleep is now deep and steady, the kind of sleep that does not shift easily. Bodies rest fully. Breathing is slow and even. The spaces inside each home are still, filled only with the quiet presence of night. There is no movement left to describe in detail, only the continuation of rest. Outside, the air is cool but gentle. It moves lightly across the village without force. It passes over rooftops made of earth and reed, then over empty pathways, and then into open fields beyond. Nothing resists it. Everything simply receives it. Above, the stars remain unchanged. They do not grow brighter or dimmer in any noticeable way. They simply exist, forming a quiet pattern that feels both endless and familiar. Time continues, but it does so without announcement, without urgency, without any visible marking of its passing.
the river remains the same unseen companion to all of this stillness. It moves through the land as it always has, carrying the memory of the day and the promise of the next without ever needing to pause. In this hour, the village feels almost suspended, not frozen, not stopped, but resting in a deep shared quiet that belongs to the night itself. And so everything continues in this gentle way. Fires dim, breathing slows, stars hold their place, the river flows, and the land of ancient Egypt remains wrapped in its familiar rhythm of darkness and rest, where nothing is forced, nothing is hurried, and everything simply continues forward in silence, as it always has, and as it always will.
The night remains steady over the land of ancient Egypt. It feels even quieter now, as if the world has settled into its deepest layer of rest. There is no movement that stands out, no change that interrupts the calm. Only a long, continuous stillness that stretches across land, river, and sky. Above, the stars continue to hold their places in the dark sky. They do not shift in any way that can be felt. They simply remain, forming a quiet pattern that feels unchanged from moment to moment. Along the unseen stretch of the Nile River, the water keeps moving through the darkness. It does not slow. It does not pause. It continues its steady path, carrying the same rhythm it has carried throughout the entire day and night. In the village, only faint embers remain where fires once burned. Their glow is weak but steady, like soft points of warmth that refuse to disappear completely. They are not active anymore. They do not produce light in any strong sense, but they are still present, holding on quietly against the darkness. Inside the homes, sleep remains deep and uninterrupted, the kind of sleep that feels complete without awareness of time passing. Bodies are still, breathing is soft. The space inside each home is filled with silence that feels natural rather than empty. There is no urgency anywhere, no expectation of movement, only rest. Outside, the air remains cool and gentle. It moves slowly across the land, touching the village lightly before continuing on toward the open fields and river beyond. It does not change anything it passes through. It only moves. Above, the sky remains dark and wide. The stars continue to shine with quiet consistency. There is no pattern that feels new, only the same familiar arrangement that has always been there, whether noticed or not. Time passes, but it does so without marking itself clearly. It becomes something that can only be felt indirectly, in the way silence deepens, or in the way darkness feels slightly softer than before. The river remains the constant presence beneath all of this stillness. Even when unseen, it continues to exist in the background of everything, flowing, carrying, moving without end. And so the world of ancient Egypt stays in this quiet night, unchanged in its rhythm, held gently between sky and water, where everything rests without resistance and continues without interruption, as the long hours of darkness slowly move forward toward a morning that will arrive in the same gentle way it always has. The night begins to shift again, very slowly, over the land of ancient Egypt. It is not yet morning, not yet light, but something in the darkness starts to soften in a way that is almost invisible at first. The sky remains deep and wide, filled with stars that still hold their quiet positions. Nothing in them changes, and yet the feeling of time moving forward becomes slightly more noticeable. Along the long and unseen flow of the Nile River, the water continues its steady motion. Even in darkness, it remains present, always moving,
always carrying the same calm rhythm that does not respond to the passing of hours. In the village, embers are now extremely faint. Some have nearly disappeared, leaving only a soft trace of warmth in the places where fires once burned. The village is almost fully quiet in the physical sense. There are no visible movements that stand out, only the presence of rest across every home. Inside, sleep remains deep and uninterrupted, the kind of sleep that does not shift or break. Breathing continues in slow, even cycles. Bodies remain still in their resting positions. The world inside each home feels complete in its silence. Outside, the air begins to feel slightly different, not warmer, not brighter, but subtly less heavy than before. A change too small to notice directly, yet present in the way the night feels as it continues. Above, the stars remain steady, but the darkness between them begins to soften almost imperceptibly. It is not yet light, but the night is no longer at its deepest point. The change is gentle enough that nothing seems different, and yet everything is slowly moving forward. The river continues beneath it all, unseen but known. Its flow remains the same, as if unaffected by the subtle shift in time above it. In the village, no one stirs. There is no need for movement yet. Rest continues in full, and the land remains in this long, quiet balance between night and the first hint of return, where everything is still, everything is calm, and everything continues without interruption, waiting for the smallest sign of morning that has not yet arrived but is already beginning to form somewhere beyond the horizon. The night over the land of ancient Egypt begins its slow return toward quiet transition again. There is still darkness, there are still stars, but the deepest part of night has already passed, even if nothing clearly shows it. The sky remains wide and calm, holding everything in a steady silence that feels unchanged on the surface. Along the endless path of the Nile River, the water continues to move through the darkness. It does not pause for the time of night. It does not adjust its rhythm. It simply continues, steady and familiar, as it always has been. In the village, the last traces of firelight are now almost gone. Only faint, dying embers remain in a few places, barely visible against the dark. They give off no real glow anymore, only memory of warmth. Inside the homes, sleep remains deep and peaceful. No one moves in any noticeable way. No one shifts in response to the outside world. Everything inside is still, held gently in rest. Breathing continues in slow, natural patterns, the kind of silence that fills a space without needing to be noticed. Outside, the air begins to change in a way that is almost impossible to describe. It is not warmer, not brighter, but slightly less closed than before, as if the night is loosening its hold just a little. Above, the stars remain steady, but the darkness between them begins to feel softer, less dense, even if no clear light has yet appeared. The change is so subtle that it blends into the feeling of time passing rather than appearing as a visible shift. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanging, carrying its quiet motion forward through the long hours without interruption. In the village, everything remains at rest. There is no sound that breaks the silence, no movement that draws attention, only the presence of sleeping life held gently within homes that remain still under the vast sky. And so the world stays in this quiet in-between space, where night has not yet ended but is no longer at its deepest point,
where everything continues forward in silence, and where the first return of morning is slowly preparing itself far beyond what can be seen, just as it always does, in a rhythm that never breaks and never rushes.
The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow and quiet passage. It feels steady, almost unchanged. And yet, the deeper part of darkness has already begun to loosen, even if nothing in the world clearly shows it yet. The sky remains filled with stars, calm and distant, holding their familiar places without movement or urgency. There is no shift in their pattern, only the soft feeling that time is continuing forward, quietly and without interruption. Along the long stretch of the Nile River, the water moves through the night as it always has. Its motion cannot be seen clearly anymore, but it is still present in the mind, in the memory of its steady sound, in the knowledge that it never stops. In the village, everything remains deeply still. The last traces of firelight have nearly vanished completely. Only the faintest hints of embers remain, and even those are fading into darkness. The homes are quiet, not just quiet in sound, but quiet in presence. Everything inside is at rest. Sleep continues in a deep and steady way. No movement disturbs it, no change interrupts it. Only the slow, natural rhythm of breathing fills the space inside each home. Outside, the air feels slightly different again. Not noticeably warmer, not brighter, but softer, in a way that suggests distance is beginning to open between night and what will come after it. The darkness itself feels less dense, though still complete. Above, the stars continue to shine without change, but the space between them feels subtly less heavy than before. It is a change too gentle to name, but present in the quiet passage of time. The river continues beneath it all, unseen, unbroken. Its flow remains the same steady movement that has carried through every hour of the day and night. In the village, there is no sign of waking yet, no stir of early movement, only the deep and settled stillness of sleep held gently within homes and across the land. And so the night remains in this quiet in-between state, where darkness has not yet released its hold, but has begun, ever so slightly, to soften as the world continues its slow return toward morning in a rhythm that asks for no attention and gives no signal, only flows forward as it always has and always will.
The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its long, quiet movement forward. Nothing changes in any sudden way. Everything remains still on the surface. And yet, the feeling of deep night has softened a little more, as if the world is slowly preparing itself without needing to announce it. The sky is still dark, still wide, still filled with stars that remain in their familiar positions. They do not move in ways that can be seen. They simply continue to exist, steady and unchanged. Along the path of the Nile River, the water flows through the darkness without pause. It cannot be seen clearly anymore, but it is still present in its constant motion, carrying the same rhythm that has existed through all hours of the day and night. In the village, there is no remaining firelight in any strong sense, only the faintest memory of embers, now almost completely gone. The darkness here feels full, but not heavy. It is quiet in a complete and settled way. Inside the homes, sleep continues without interruption. No one stirs, no one wakes. The stillness is deep enough that even time feels less noticeable inside each space. Breathing remains slow and even, blending into the silence around it. Outside, the air has changed only slightly again. not enough to notice directly, but enough to feel if it were ever compared to earlier hours. The night feels less closed than before, not open yet, but loosening gently at its edges. Above, the stars remain unchanged in their arrangement, yet the darkness between them feels subtly less dense, as if something distant is preparing itself beyond the horizon. The river continues its unseen movement beneath everything. It does not respond to the sky. It does not respond to the village. It simply continues forward, steady and uninterrupted. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep across every home. And so the world remains in this quiet, suspended moment where night has not yet ended, but has begun its slow and gentle release, carrying everything forward toward a morning that is still far away, but already quietly forming in the background of the sky, as it always does, without effort, without noise, and without end. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues in its deepest quiet, yet it is no longer the same deepness as before. It is softer now, less sealed. Still dark, still wide, still full of stars, but something in the feeling of the night has begun to loosen, like the world slowly relaxing its grip on darkness. Above, the stars remain in their familiar places, unchanged in shape or pattern. They do not move in any visible way. They simply continue to shine in calm silence. Along the long and steady path of the Nile River, the water keeps flowing through the unseen land. It is not visible now, but it is always present in thought, in sound, in the quiet understanding that it never stops. Its movement remains steady, patient, unbroken. In the village, everything remains still. There are no fires now that can be seen, only darkness resting across homes and pathways. It is a darkness that feels natural, not empty, a darkness that belongs to sleep. Inside each home, rest continues without interruption. Bodies remain still. Breathing stays slow and even. Sleep holds the village gently, without resistance, without effort. Outside, the air feels slightly different again, not clearly changing, but gently loosening, as if the night is no longer as tightly held as it was earlier. Above, the sky remains dark, yet the space between stars feels a little softer, a little less dense than before. The change is so small it cannot be pointed to, only felt as a quiet sense of time continuing forward. The river continues beneath all of this, unseen, unbroken, always moving, always present. In the village, there is still no sign of waking, no shift in homes, no movement in paths, only the steady, shared silence of sleep that fills every space evenly. And so the night continues in this gentle in-between state, where darkness is still complete but slowly beginning to ease, and where the first hint of morning is not yet visible, but already forming quietly beyond the edge of what can be seen, carrying the world forward in the same endless rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never ends.
The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its quiet passage, but now it feels slightly different in a way that is almost impossible to define. The darkness is still complete, the sky is still wide, the stars are still present in their familiar positions, and yet something subtle has changed in the feeling of time itself. It no longer feels like the deepest point of night. It feels like the long middle of it, slowly moving toward its end. Above, the stars remain steady, unchanged, calm as ever. They do not shift or rearrange. They simply continue to shine, distant and patient, as they always have. Along the unseen path of the Nile River, the water continues to move through the darkness. It is not visible now, but it is still present in the mind like a constant thread through the land. Its motion is unchanged. It does not respond to night or time. It simply flows. In the village, everything remains in deep stillness. There are no fires now that are visible. No flicker of light remains in any strong form. Only complete darkness resting across homes and open spaces. Inside, sleep continues without interruption. It is steady, even, undisturbed. Breathing follows its slow rhythm, blending into the silence of the night. No one stirs, no one wakes. Outside, the air feels slightly more open than before. Not warm, not bright, but gently less closed, as if the night is beginning to loosen its hold in the smallest possible way. Above, the space between stars feels a little less dense, though nothing has visibly changed. It is a quiet shift, one that can only be sensed in the passing of time. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanging in its nature, always moving forward through the dark land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of rest that fills every home equally. And so the world remains in this quiet transition, where night is still present, but no longer at its deepest point, and where the first edge of morning exists only as a distant possibility, slowly forming beyond sight, carrying everything forward in a calm and endless rhythm that never breaks, never rushes, and never truly ends.
The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow and steady passage, now carrying a softer feeling than before. It is still dark, still quiet, still wide and full of stars, but the sense of deep night has gently eased, as if the world is slowly beginning to prepare for what comes next without needing to show it directly. Above, the stars remain in their familiar arrangement. They do not move in any visible way. They simply continue to exist, steady and unchanged, holding their quiet positions in the vast sky. Along the unseen stretch of the Nile River, the water flows through the darkness without interruption. It cannot be seen clearly anymore, but it is still present in its constant motion, carrying the same rhythm that has continued through every hour of day and night. In the village, everything remains in complete stillness. There are no visible fires now, only darkness resting gently over homes, pathways, and open spaces. It feels natural, not empty, a kind of darkness that belongs to rest. Inside the homes, sleep continues without disturbance. No movement breaks the stillness. No sound interrupts the silence. The village remains fully held in rest, as if time itself has slowed to match the calm of the night. Outside, the air feels subtly different again, not warmer, not brighter, but slightly more open, as if the night is loosening its hold in a way too gentle to measure. Above, the space between stars feels less heavy than before, though nothing has changed in any visible way. It is only the quiet sense of time moving forward, without announcement or signal. The river continues beneath all of this, unseen, unbroken, always flowing, always present. In the village, there is still no sign of waking, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep spread evenly across every home. And so, the night remains in this calm in-between state, where darkness is still present, but gradually softening,
and where morning has not yet arrived, but is already beginning its slow formation beyond the horizon, carrying everything forward in a rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never ends. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues to move forward in a slow and quiet way. It is still dark, still calm, still full of stars that remain in their steady places. But now the feeling of the night has shifted again, just slightly, in a way that is almost too gentle to notice. It is no longer the deepest part of night. It feels like the long stretch of darkness is slowly preparing to loosen, even though nothing in the sky has visibly changed. Above, the stars remain in their familiar positions. They do not move or flicker in any noticeable way. They simply continue to shine in the same calm silence they have always held. Along the hidden flow of the Nile River, the water continues its constant movement through the land. It is unseen now, but still present in memory, in sound, in the quiet understanding that it never stops. Its motion is steady, uninterrupted, familiar. In the village, everything remains deeply still. There are no fires left to see, only darkness resting softly across homes and open spaces. This darkness does not feel empty. It feels complete, like something natural and expected. Inside the homes, sleep continues without change. No one stirs, no one wakes. The rhythm of breathing remains slow and even, blending into the silence that fills every corner of each room. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not in a way that can be clearly measured, but in a way that is felt more than seen. The night is still present, but it no longer feels as tightly held as before. Above, the space between stars feels gently lighter, though nothing has changed in any visible way. It is only the passing of time, soft and quiet. The river continues beneath all of this, unseen, unbroken, always moving forward. In the village, there is still no sign of waking, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep, spread evenly across every home. And so, the night continues in this gentle transition, where darkness remains but slowly softens, and where the first edge of morning exists only as a quiet possibility far beyond sight, unfolding slowly in the background of the world, carrying everything forward in a rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never ends.
The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its quiet and steady movement, now feeling like it is slowly nearing a change that cannot yet be seen. The darkness is still present, still complete, still wide across the land. But the feeling of deep night has softened again, just slightly, as if the world is holding its breath in a calm and natural way. Above, the stars remain unchanged. They are still in their familiar positions, steady and distant. They do not shift or fade. They simply continue to exist in the same silent pattern that has remained for so long. Along the hidden path of the Nile River, the water keeps moving through the land without pause. It cannot be seen now, but it is always present in the understanding of the world around it. Its flow is constant, unbroken, familiar like breathing. In the village, everything remains still. There are no fires left, only darkness resting gently over homes, courtyards, and paths. It feels complete and natural, as if the night itself is covering everything in a soft and even layer of silence. Inside the homes, sleep continues without disturbance. No one stirs, no one wakes. Breathing remains slow and steady,
blending into the quiet of the night. Outside, the air feels slightly more open once again, not noticeably different, but gently shifting in a way that suggests the night is loosening its hold little by little. Above, the space between stars feels less heavy than before, though nothing has visibly changed. It is only the quiet movement of time, moving forward without sound or signal. The river continues beneath all of this, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared silence of rest that fills every home equally. And so the night continues in this calm and gentle transition, where darkness still exists but slowly begins to ease, and where morning is not yet present but quietly forming far beyond what can be seen, carrying the world forward in the same endless rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never truly ends. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow, gentle passage. Everything remains still, everything remains quiet. But the long darkness of night now feels slightly thinner, as if the world is easing toward the idea of morning without yet showing any sign of it. Above, the stars remain steady in their familiar positions. They do not shift or fade. They continue to shine with the same distant calm, holding the sky in a quiet balance that never changes quickly. Along the unseen flow of the Nile River, the water continues moving through the land. It is not visible in the darkness, but it is always there, continuing its steady path without pause or interruption. Its motion is constant, unchanging, familiar in its rhythm. In the village, everything remains in deep stillness. There are no fires now, only darkness resting gently over homes, courtyards, and paths. It feels complete and natural, as if the night itself is covering everything in a soft and even layer of silence. Inside the homes, sleep continues without disturbance. No one stirs, no one wakes. Breathing remains slow and steady, blending into the quiet of the night. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not noticeably different, but slightly shifting in a way that suggests the night is loosening its fold little by little. Above, the space between stars feels less heavy than before, though nothing has visibly changed. It is only the quiet movement of time, moving forward without sound or signal. The river continues beneath all of this, unseen, unbroken, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared silence of rest that fills every home equally. And so the night continues in this peaceful in-between state, where darkness still exists but slowly begins to ease, and where morning is not yet present but quietly forming far beyond what can be seen, carrying the world forward in the same endless rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never truly ends. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow, gentle passage. Everything remains still, everything remains quiet. But the long darkness of night now feels slightly thinner, as if the world is easing toward the idea of morning without yet showing any sign of it. Above, the stars remain steady in their familiar positions. They do not shift or fade. They continue to shine with the same distant calm, holding the sky in a quiet balance that never changes quickly. Along the unseen flow of the Nile River, the water continues moving through the land. It is not visible in the darkness, but it is always there, continuing its steady path without pause or interruption. Its motion is constant, unchanging, familiar in its rhythm. In the village, everything remains in deep stillness. There are no fires now, only darkness resting gently over homes, courtyards, and paths. It feels complete and natural, as if the night itself is covering everything in a soft and even layer of silence. Inside the homes, sleep continues without disturbance. No one stirs, no one wakes. Breathing remains slow and steady, blending into the quiet of the night. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not noticeably different, but slightly shifting in a way that suggests the night is loosening its hold little by little. Above, the space between stars feels less heavy than before, though nothing has visibly changed. It is only the quiet movement of time, moving forward without sound or signal. The river continues beneath all of this, unseen, unbroken, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared silence of rest that fills every home equally. And so the night continues in this peaceful in-between state, where darkness still exists but slowly begins to ease, and where morning is not yet present but quietly forming far beyond what can be seen, carrying the world forward in the same endless rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never truly ends. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow, gentle passage. Everything remains still, everything remains quiet. But the long darkness of night now feels slightly thinner, as if the world is easing toward the idea of morning without yet showing any sign of it. Above, the stars remain steady in their familiar positions. They do not shift or fade. They continue to shine with the same distant calm, holding the sky in a quiet balance that never changes quickly. Along the unseen flow of the Nile River, the water continues moving through the land. It is not visible in the darkness, but it is always there, continuing its steady path without pause or interruption. Its motion is constant, unchanging, familiar in its rhythm. In the village, everything remains in deep stillness. There are no fires now, only darkness resting gently over homes, courtyards, and paths. It feels complete and natural, as if the night itself is covering everything in a soft and even layer of silence. Inside the homes, sleep continues without disturbance. No one stirs, no one wakes. Breathing remains slow and steady, blending into the quiet of the night. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not noticeably different, but slightly shifting in a way that suggests the night is loosening its hold little by little. Above, the space between stars feels less heavy than before, though nothing has visibly changed. It is only the quiet movement of time, moving forward without sound or signal. The river continues beneath all of this, unseen, unbroken, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared silence of rest that fills every home equally. And so the night continues in this peaceful in-between state, where darkness still exists but slowly begins to ease, and where morning is not yet present but already forming far beyond what can be seen, carrying everything forward in a rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never truly ends. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its long, quiet movement, but now it feels as if something very distant is beginning to change. Not in the land itself, not in sound, but in the feeling of time passing through everything. The darkness is still present, still complete,
still covering the villages, the fields, and the long river valley in a calm and even silence. Above, the stars remain steady in their familiar arrangement. They do not shift, they do not fade, they simply continue to exist, distant and patient, holding the sky in a quiet stillness that never rushes. Along the unseen stretch of the Nile River, the water continues to move through the land. It is hidden now in darkness, but always present in its steady and familiar flow. Its motion does not change with the night. It continues forward without hesitation. In the village, everything remains deep in rest. There are no fires left, only darkness resting gently across homes and pathways. It feels natural and complete, like the world itself has settled into sleep. Inside the homes, sleep continues without interruption. No one stirs, no one wakes. The rhythm of breathing remains slow and steady, blending into the silence that fills every corner. Outside, the air feels slightly more open once again, not in any strong or clear way, but in a gentle loosening, as if the night is slowly releasing its hold, little by little. Above, the space between stars feels softer, though nothing has visibly changed in the sky. It is only the passage of time, moving forward without sound. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unbroken, always moving forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep that fills every home equally. And so the night continues in this calm and gentle transition, where darkness is still present but slowly easing, and where morning has not yet arrived but is quietly forming beyond the horizon, carrying the world forward in a rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never truly ends. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow and quiet journey forward, but now it feels as if the edge of darkness is becoming thinner. Not gone, not changed in any sudden way, just slightly softer, like something vast is beginning to loosen its hold. The sky remains dark, the stars remain steady. They hold their places without movement, distant and calm, as if time does not touch them at all. Along the long, unseen stretch of the Nile River, the water continues to flow through the land. It cannot be seen clearly now, but it is always there in its quiet motion, carrying the same rhythm it has carried through every hour of night. Its presence is constant, unbroken, familiar like breath itself. In the village, everything remains deeply still. There are no fires now, only darkness resting evenly over homes, paths, and fields. It feels complete, not empty, a darkness that belongs to rest and quiet living things. Inside the homes, sleep continues without interruption. No one stirs, no one wakes. The rhythm of breathing remains slow and steady, blending into the silence that fills every corner. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not in any clear or visible way, but in a gentle loosening, as if the night is slowly releasing its hold. Above, the space between stars feels a little less heavy than before, though nothing has visibly changed in the sky. It is only the passage of time, moving forward without sound. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep that fills every home equally. And so the night continues in this calm and gentle transition, where darkness is still present but slowly easing, and where morning has not yet arrived but is quietly forming beyond the horizon, carrying the world forward in a rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never truly ends. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its quiet passage, but now it feels as if the long darkness is beginning to shift in a way that is almost unnoticeable. The world is still dark, still silent, still resting under the same wide sky, and yet something in the feeling of time has changed again, just slightly, as if the night is no longer holding everything as tightly as before. Above, the stars remain in their steady positions. They do not move or fade. They simply continue their distant glow, calm and unchanging, like they have always done through every long hour of darkness. Along the unseen path of the Nile River, the water continues to flow through the land. It cannot be seen clearly now, but it is always there in its quiet motion, carrying the same rhythm it has carried through every hour of night. Its presence is constant, unbroken, familiar like breath itself. In the village, everything remains deeply still. There are no fires now, only darkness resting evenly over homes, paths, and fields. It feels complete, not empty, a darkness that belongs to rest and quiet living things. Inside the homes, sleep continues without interruption. No one stirs, no one wakes. The rhythm of breathing remains slow and steady, blending into the silence that fills every corner. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not in any clear or visible way, but in a gentle loosening, as if the night is slowly releasing its hold. Above, the space between stars feels a little less heavy than before, though nothing has visibly changed in the sky. It is only the passage of time, moving forward without sound. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep that fills every home equally. And so the night continues in this calm and gentle transition, where darkness is still present but slowly easing, and where morning has not yet arrived but is quietly forming beyond the horizon, carrying the world forward in a rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never truly ends. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow and quiet passage forward, but now it feels as if the long darkness is beginning to shift in a way that is almost unnoticeable. The world is still dark, still silent, still resting under the same wide sky, and yet something in the feeling of time has changed again, just slightly, as if the night is no longer holding everything as tightly as before. Above, the stars remain in their steady positions. They do not move or fade. They simply continue their distant glow, calm and unchanging, like they have always done through every long hour of darkness. Along the unseen path of the Nile River, the water continues to flow through the land. It cannot be seen clearly now, but it is always there in its quiet motion, carrying the same rhythm it has carried through every hour of night. Its presence is constant, unbroken, familiar like breath itself. In the village, everything remains deeply still. There are no fires now, only darkness resting evenly over homes, paths, and fields. It feels complete, not empty, a darkness that belongs to rest and quiet living things. Inside the homes, sleep continues without interruption. No one stirs, no one wakes. The rhythm of breathing remains slow and steady, blending into the silence that fills every corner.
Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not in any clear or visible way, but in a gentle loosening, as if the night is slowly releasing its hold. Above, the space between stars feels a little less heavy than before, though nothing has visibly changed in the sky. It is only the passage of time, moving
Forward, without sound. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep that fills every home equally. And so the night continues in this gentle in-between state, where darkness is still present but slowly easing, and where morning is not yet here but quietly forming beyond the horizon, carrying everything forward in a rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never truly ends. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its quiet passage, but now it feels as if the long darkness is beginning to shift in a way that is almost unnoticeable. The world is still dark, still silent, still resting under the same wide sky, and yet something in the feeling of time has changed again, just slightly, as if the night is no longer holding everything as tightly as before. Above, the stars remain in their steady positions. They do not move or fade. They simply continue their distant glow, calm and unchanging, like they have always done through every long hour of darkness. Along the unseen path of the Nile River, the water keeps flowing through the land. It is not visible in the darkness, but it is always present in its steady and familiar movement. Its rhythm does not change. It does not pause. It simply continues forward, as it always has. In the village, everything remains in deep stillness. There are no fires left, only darkness resting gently over homes, courtyards, and open fields. It feels natural and complete, like the land itself is breathing slowly in rest. Inside the homes, sleep continues without interruption. No one stirs, no one wakes. The quiet rhythm of breathing blends into the silence that fills every space. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not in any clear or visible way, but in a gentle sense that the night is slowly loosening its hold. Above, the space between stars feels a little less heavy than before, though nothing has changed in any visible form. It is only time passing forward, steady and quiet. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep that fills every home equally. And so the night continues in this soft and peaceful transition, where darkness still remains but slowly eases, and where morning has not yet arrived, but is quietly forming far beyond the horizon, carrying the world forward in a rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never truly ends. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its quiet movement forward, now resting in a softer kind of darkness than before. Everything is still. Everything is calm, but the long stretch of night no longer feels as heavy as it once did, as if time itself is slowly loosening its grip on the world. Above, the stars remain in their familiar places.
They do not shift, they do not fade. They simply continue to shine in distant silence, unchanged by the passing of hours beneath them. Along the unseen flow of the Nile River, the water continues to move through the land. It cannot be seen clearly now, but it is always present in its steady motion, carrying the same rhythm through the night. Its movement is constant, quiet, unbroken. In the village, everything remains deeply at rest. There are no fires now, only darkness resting gently over homes and pathways. It feels natural, like the world itself has settled into a long and peaceful pause. Inside the homes, sleep continues without interruption. No one stirs, no one wakes. The quiet rhythm of breathing remains slow and even, blending into the silence that fills every space. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not in any clear or visible way, but in a gentle sense that the night is slowly beginning to loosen its hold. Above, the space between stars feels a little less heavy than before, though nothing has changed in any visible form. It is only the quiet passing of time, moving forward without sound or urgency. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep that fills every home equally. And so the night continues in this soft and peaceful transition, where darkness still remains but slowly eases, and where morning has not yet arrived but is quietly forming far beyond the horizon, carrying the world forward in a rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never truly ends. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its quiet movement forward, now resting in a softer kind of darkness than before. Everything is still, everything is calm, but the long stretch of night no longer feels as heavy as it once did, as if time itself is slowly loosening its grip on the world. Above, the stars remain in their familiar places. They do not shift, they do not fade. They simply continue to shine in distant silence, unchanged by the passing of hours beneath them. Along the unseen flow of the Nile River, the water continues to move through the land. It cannot be seen clearly now, but it is always present in its steady motion, carrying the same rhythm through the night. Its movement is constant, quiet, unbroken. In the village, everything remains deeply at rest. There are no fires now, only darkness resting gently over homes and pathways. It feels natural, like the world itself has settled into a long and peaceful pause. Inside the homes, sleep continues without interruption. No one stirs, no one wakes. The quiet rhythm of breathing remains slow and even, blending into the silence that fills every space. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not in any clear or visible way, but in a gentle sense that the night is slowly beginning to loosen its hold. Above, the space between stars feels a little less heavy than before, though nothing has changed in any visible form. It is only the quiet passing of time, moving forward without sound or urgency. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land.
In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep that fills every home equally. And so the night continues in this soft and peaceful transition, where darkness still remains but slowly eases, and where morning has not yet arrived but is quietly forming far beyond the horizon, carrying the world forward in a rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never truly ends.
The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow and steady passage, now resting in a quiet balance between deep darkness and the first gentle sense of its fading. Nothing is different in a visible way. The sky is still dark, the land is still still, the silence is still complete. And yet, the feeling of the night has shifted again, almost like a soft breath moving through the world. Above, the stars remain steady in their places. They do not move or fade. They continue to shine in distant calm, unchanged by anything happening below them. Along the unseen path of the Nile River, the water keeps flowing through the land. It cannot be seen now, but it is always there, carrying its steady and familiar rhythm through the darkness. Its motion does not change. It simply continues forward. In the village, everything remains deeply still. There are no fires left to see, only darkness resting evenly over homes, courtyards, and open ground. It feels natural and full, like the world itself has settled into a long and quiet rest. Inside the homes, sleep continues without interruption. No movement breaks the silence. No sound disturbs the calm. Breathing remains slow and steady, blending into the stillness around it. Outside, the air feels gently more open again, not in any clear or visible way, but in a gentle sense that the night is loosening its hold little by little. Above, the space between stars feels softer, though nothing has visibly changed. It is only the passage of time, moving forward without sound or urgency. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep that fills every home equally. And so the night continues in this calm and gentle transition, where darkness still remains but slowly begins to ease, and where morning is not yet present but quietly forming far beyond the horizon, carrying the world forward in a rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never truly ends. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow and gentle passage, now feeling even more like a long, quiet pause between moments rather than something fixed or heavy. The darkness is still present, still complete, still covering the land in its familiar silence, but it no longer feels as deep as it once did earlier in the night. Something subtle has shifted again, like the world is slowly preparing itself for change without showing any clear sign of it. Above, the stars remain steady in their places. They do not move or fade. They continue to shine in distant calm, unchanged by anything below. Along the unseen flow of the Nile River, the water keeps moving through the land. It is hidden in darkness now, but it is always there, carrying its steady rhythm forward without pause or interruption. Its motion is constant, unbroken, familiar. In the village, everything remains deeply still. There are no fires now, only darkness resting softly over homes, courtyards, and open ground. It feels natural, like the world itself is resting in complete quiet. Inside the homes, sleep continues without interruption. No movement disturbs the silence, no sound breaks the calm.
Breathing remains slow and even, blending gently into the stillness of the night. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not in any strong or visible way, but in a quiet sense that the night is slowly easing its hold. Above, the space between stars feels softer, though nothing has visibly changed. It is only the passing of time, moving forward without sound or urgency. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no stir, no movement, only the shared silence of sleep that fills every home evenly. And so the night continues in this calm and gentle transition, where darkness still remains but slowly begins to soften, and where morning is not yet present but quietly forming far beyond the horizon, carrying the world forward in a rhythm that never rushes, never breaks, and never truly ends. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its quiet, steady movement, now resting in a softer and more distant kind of darkness. Everything remains still, everything remains calm, but the long night no longer feels as heavy as it did before, as if it is slowly beginning to release its hold on the world. Above, the stars remain unchanged in their familiar positions. They do not shift, they do not fade. They simply continue to shine in distant silence, holding the sky in a calm and unbroken pattern. Along the unseen path of the Nile River, the water continues to flow through the land. It is hidden now in darkness, but it is always present, moving in the same steady rhythm without pause or interruption. Its motion is constant, familiar, unbroken. In the village, everything remains deeply at rest. There are no fires left to see, only darkness resting gently over homes, pathways, and open spaces. It feels natural, like the world itself has settled into a long and peaceful pause. Inside the homes, sleep continues without interruption. No one stirs, no one wakes. The rhythm of breathing remains slow and even, blending into the silence that fills every space. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not in a clear or visible way, but in a subtle sense that the night is slowly loosening its hold. Above, the space between stars feels a little softer, though nothing has visibly changed in the sky. It is only the quiet passage of time, moving forward without noise or urgency. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep that fills every home equally. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow and quiet fading, no longer as deep as it once was, but still holding the world in a gentle, familiar darkness. Everything remains still, everything remains calm, and yet something subtle has already begun to change. Above, the stars are still present, still steady in their distant places, but the sky around them feels lighter now, as if the night is slowly letting go. Along the long, unseen path of the Nile River, the water continues to flow through the land. It does not stop. It does not change. It simply moves forward, carrying the same rhythm that it has carried through every hour of the night. Its movement is constant, familiar, unbroken. In the village, everything remains deeply at rest. There are no fires left to see, only darkness resting gently over homes, paths, and open spaces. It feels natural, like the world itself is resting in a long and peaceful silence. Inside the homes, sleep continues without disturbance. No movement breaks the stillness.
No sound disturbs the calm. Breathing remains slow and even, blending softly into the quiet of the night. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not in a clear or visible way, but in a subtle sense that the night is slowly loosening its hold. Above, the space between stars feels a little softer, though nothing has visibly changed in the sky. It is only the quiet passage of time, moving forward without noise or urgency. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep that fills every home equally. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow and quiet fading, no longer as deep as it once was, but still holding the world in a gentle, familiar darkness. Everything remains still, everything remains calm, and yet something subtle has already begun to change. Above, the stars are still present, still steady in their distant places, but the sky around them feels lighter now, as if the night is slowly letting go. Along the long, unseen path of the Nile River, the water continues to flow through the land. It does not stop. It does not change. It simply moves forward, carrying the same rhythm that it has carried through every hour of the night. Its movement is constant, familiar, unbroken. In the village, everything remains deeply at rest. There are no fires left to see, only darkness resting gently over homes, paths, and open spaces. It feels natural, like the world itself is resting in a long and peaceful silence. Inside the homes, sleep continues without disturbance. No movement breaks the stillness. No sound disturbs the calm. Breathing remains slow and even, blending softly into the quiet of the night. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not in a clear or visible way, but in a subtle sense that the night is slowly loosening its hold. Above, the space between stars feels a little softer, though nothing has visibly changed in the sky. It is only the quiet passage of time, moving forward without noise or urgency. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep that fills every home equally. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow and quiet fading, no longer as deep as it once was, but still holding the world in a gentle, familiar darkness. Everything remains still, everything remains calm, and yet something subtle has already begun to change. Above, the stars are still present, still steady in their distant places, but the sky around them feels lighter now, as if the night is slowly letting go. Along the long, unseen path of the Nile River, the water continues to flow through the land. It does not stop. It does not change. It simply moves forward, carrying the same rhythm that it has carried through every hour of the night. Its movement is constant, familiar, unbroken. In the village, everything remains deeply at rest. There are no fires left to see, only darkness resting gently over homes, paths, and open spaces. It feels natural, like the world itself is resting in a long and peaceful silence. Inside the homes, sleep continues without disturbance. No movement breaks the stillness. No sound disturbs the calm. Breathing remains slow and even, blending softly into the quiet of the night. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not in a clear or visible way, but in a subtle sense that the night is slowly loosening its hold. Above, the space between stars feels a little softer, though nothing has visibly changed in the sky. It is only the quiet passage of time, moving forward without noise or urgency. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no movement, no sound, only the shared stillness of sleep that fills every home equally. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow and quiet fading, no longer as deep as it once was, but still holding the world in a gentle, familiar darkness. Everything remains still, everything remains calm, and yet something subtle has already begun to change. Above, the stars are still present, still steady in their distant places, but the sky around them feels lighter now, as if the night is slowly letting go. Along the long, unseen path of the Nile River, the water continues to flow through the land. It does not stop. It does not change. It simply moves forward, carrying the same rhythm that it has carried through every hour of the night. Its movement is constant, familiar, unbroken. In the village, everything remains deeply at rest. There are no fires left to see, only darkness resting gently over homes, paths, and open spaces. It feels natural, like the world itself is resting in a long and peaceful silence. Inside the homes, sleep continues without disturbance. No movement breaks the stillness. No sound disturbs the calm. Breathing remains slow and even, blending softly into the quiet of the night. Outside, the air feels slightly more open again, not in a clear or visible way, but in a subtle sense that the night is gently loosening its hold. Above, the space between stars feels a little softer, though nothing has visibly changed in the sky. It is only the quiet passing of time, moving forward without noise or urgency. The river continues beneath everything, unseen, unchanged, always flowing forward through the land. In the village, there is still no sign of waking life, no stir, no movement, only the shared stillness of sleep that fills every home equally. The night over the land of ancient Egypt continues its slow and quiet fading, no longer as deep as it once was, but still holding the world in a gentle, familiar darkness. Everything remains still. Everything remains calm. And yet, something subtle has already begun to change. Above, the stars are still present, still steady in their distant places, but the sky around them feels lighter now, as if the night is quietly letting go. Along the long, unseen path of the Nile River, the water continues to flow through the land. It does not stop. It does not change. It simply moves forward, carrying the same rhythm that has carried it through every hour of the night. In the village, everything remains at rest for one last stretch of darkness. No fires burn, no movement stirs. Only the soft stillness of sleep rests across homes and open ground. Inside, breathing remains slow and steady, peaceful and uninterrupted, as if the entire village is held gently in the same quiet moment. Outside, the air feels just a little more open now, not yet morning, not yet light, but close enough that the night no longer feels endless. It feels like something that is about to pass. Above, the sky remains dark, but the first hint of change is carried in the silence itself. The river continues beneath everything, unchanged, unseen, eternal in its movement. And then, without rush or sound, the night slowly begins to give way, not suddenly, not completely, but softly, as it always does. The world remains quiet, the world remains still, and the darkness, little by little, begins to fade into the promise of morning.